Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday, March the 12th. Happy Inflation Day to all of you who celebrate. We are starting early today because in a mere 10 minutes, we are going to get the next Consumer Price Index report, which will have obviously lots of implications. Well, this and a couple other things, retail sales later this week. My point is we're getting some measures of the overall economy, the state of the economy, that are going to have like a lot to do with the upcoming FOMC meeting next week, which for those of you who weren't paying attention in econ class, that's very, 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 very much we're going to find out if the Fed wants to be hawkish, dovish, the people in control of our money. So it's going to be a pivotal one. If you ask me, I think there's a pretty good shot that we come out in line today with the expectations. And I also think there's a very, very high shot that next week with the FOMC meeting, we are going to end up just keeping constant at 5.25%. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be other things that prompt the market to be highly, highly, highly volatile today. So I hope you are buckled up, Buttercup. I hope you are already up at the crack of dawn, crushing the stair stepper, already on your fourth cup of coffee. I hope you're ready to go. I also hope you're wearing your Lucky Buffalo shirt. It does turn out that the Buffalo shirt I was wearing on Friday, I thought was lucky, but based on the massive loss that I took, it was in fact not a Lucky Buffalo shirt. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be a lucky one. Like, what's the chance of having multiple bison-based shirts with them all being unlucky? Like, that statistically, that doesn't make sense. So the fact that we definitively know the other one is unlucky, that means that this one has to be lucky. I mean, it would be actually statistically insane if that were not the case. So we're going to see how it's all playing out. We are obviously going to see how it's all playing out. I am noticing a little bit of some bit rate issues. Can everyone hear me perfectly fine on both YouTube and Rumble? Yes, no, raise your hand, don't raise your hand. I just want to confirm because I am getting some bit rate issues. Am I coming through clear? I should be crisp. The image should be crisp and the audio should be a deep, deep baritone voice right in the side of your ear. Good. Okay. I guess I don't know why I'm getting a bit rate issue, but if it's all good, it's all good. And I'm not going to ask any questions. It already feels like the lucky shirt's working its way out. So the first thing I need to ask you, and actually maybe I should put up a poll. Wait, no, I'm going to do the poll after. Should I do the poll now? I'm going to ask you guys now, and then after we have the results of the CPI report, that's when I'm going to get the poll for the actual day. So as of right now, Rumble chat, YouTube chat, CPI. CPI, for those of you who don't know, as of now, is expected to come out in the realm of 3.1%. 3.1 CPI year over year. For the month over month headline, we're looking at 0.4 and the core 0.3. So I want to get your thoughts on that, but very quickly before we get there, you should know that the market's looking kind of strong this morning, definitely favoring the bulls. The SPY vomited yesterday right at market open and then grinded up all day. Vomited at open, grinded up all day on both the SPY and the Qs, and Bitcoin also tagged a new all-time high, just to give you a quick skinny on the situation. S&P 500 futures tick higher as all eyes are on key inflation reading, the Consumer Price Index. It comes out at 8:30. Is it the most pivotal inflation reading? No. If you listen to the Fed, they do like the personal consumption expenditure, the PCE report a bit more. It measures the same thing. It's a little bit more timely and it's a little bit more broad in terms of the data that it takes in, but they are very, very similar. So not exactly the same, but they have a lot of similarities. A key inflation reading is due out Tuesday morning. That's not the only thing going down today, as I'm going to cover more detail in a second. At 1 p.m. today, we're also getting the results of the 10-year Treasury auction, which, if that goes well, market higher. If it doesn't go well, market lower. So two big things going down today. CPI report, 10-year Treasury auction. Mark your calendar, set an alarm, do whatever you need to. First one's at 8:30 this morning. Second one's at 1 p.m. today. The Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics releases its latest reading on the Consumer Price Index today, Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. ET. Excluding food and energy, the increase of core inflation is forecast at 0.3% gain again. So this is the confusing thing when Biden's like, hey, you corporations, we beat inflation, you got to bring it down. No, we're inflating at less of a velocity. We're still going in the wrong direction, but just not at the same rate we were before. So things are still inflating. So this concept of bringing prices back down, it's ludicrous. And he knows it's ludicrous. His team knows it's ludicrous. All politicians know it's ludicrous. No one's ever going to lower prices. We live in a system that is a forever expanding system. It's a forever expanding credit system. The dollar is set up to always be devalued, which means the nominal price of things, the price tag, is always going to go up. What matters is the rate of increase, especially relative to the average income. Inflation's reliance almost certainly will assure on no Fed rate cuts at its meeting on April 30th to May 1st and possibly into the summer. If you say so, but the next FOMC meeting is March the 20th, Wednesday, March the 20th. Obviously, when the time's closer, I'll remind everyone, we'll stream it, yada, yada, yada. But there's very, very high odds, like over 96% chance that there is no change to the Fed fund rate at the next FOMC meeting, but they will take these data reports into consideration of when they start to pick, okay, we're in that Goldilocks situation. We think we might be able to thread the eye of the needle and start bringing the Fed fund rate back down, ideally to not go into some sort of recession or depression or any other worse global play out. But hang on. So right here, 4 minutes, it's going down. I have the audio and everything ready. 3.1% is the year-over-year headline. 0.4% is the month-over-month headline, and 0.3% is the core CPI. So core, you take out food and energy. Food and energy have actually been coming down. So what people have actually really been looking at recently is what's referred to as super core, and that's when you're really focusing on really shelter and services, and it's shelter, what we all live in, that's proven to be particularly sticky. If you haven't heard that term in the as it relates to the world of inflation, it's basically stubborn inflation. It's when something is inflating and it's holding, and whatever the Fed does, like not really bringing it down, i.e. the terminology sticky. So just want to throw that out there. There's going to be some conversation today on supercore, specifically what's going on in shelter and services, I would say is of particular interest to quite a few people. And let's just keep knocking out these tabs so I can free up some of the memory on my computer. US CPI won't inspire Fed to cut rates, according to Bloomberg Economics. Well, it's not according to them. It's literally according to the Fed, who are basically saying, hey, this crazy concept of cutting in March, it's crazy. It's ludicrous. Give me the number of your drug dealer, because it ain't happening, buddy. We don't need to listen to fancy schmancy economists. The Fed, to our face, is screaming at us, no. This idea of 6 rate cuts in the calendar year of 2024 ain't going to happen, brother. So get off the ganja, if you will. And to our face, he said, nah, it's not happening. So no matter what this one is, March, the market knows it, 96, 97, 98% chance we get no Fed rate cut in March, probably coming a little bit closer to the summertime. At least that's what everyone's kind of looking at right now. And very quickly, one more thing to cover before we actually switch it over. Jamie Dimon warns U.S. recession not off the table. JP Morgan CEO says Fed should wait before cutting rates. Says Trump, an amazing political figure, but unpredictable. Jamie Dimon, he's in a weird phase right now. I don't know what's going on. I think he's been spiraling ever since it was very, very evident that JP Morgan got inexcusably linked to Epstein. Oh, am I even allowed to say that word? That guy with the island, this guy was his banker. And ever since then, in the media, tying it all together, he's been on a little bit of a spiral. So that was an awkwardness. And then he decided to be a martyr on the world of crypto and saying, get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. Kind of hitching his wagon to Elizabeth Warren. And now he's on this. Like, he's just going through something. And I just hope he's all right, you know? He feels like whenever he's given a very obvious correct thing to say and a right way to lean and be on the right side of history, he's like, I'm going to go with the other one, actually. And I feel like he's just doing it time and time again. So we'll see what he's up to. We'll see what he's up to. Hopefully he figures out his path. So anyway, that's the setup for the morning. We will be getting the results very shortly. Let me get the volume going. It is 8:29. Results are about to come out. You know what? Let's go down to let's get crazy with it. Let's go to the 15-second chart. Before the results come out, I want your votes. I want your votes. You have less than 1 minute to tell me exactly how you folks feel on the day. The SPY is currently up 0.25%, trading at 512.58. If we look at the Qs, they are at 439. If we look at gold, it is at 2,176. Bitcoin is at 71,650. We got some early morning movement, some early morning enthusiasm. I'm seeing some bulls in here. The only stat that is like I can confidently tell you, out of the last 10 CPI days, the market has opened higher than the previous one. 9 out of 10.
A few seconds away from that February CPI
give us Rick.
Number
give us Rick or give us death.
Read on inflation. It's something the markets and the Fed are watching closely. Ahead of that, you're looking at the futures indicated slightly higher. Dow futures up by about 6 points. S&P futures up by 14. The Nasdaq
first
up by
reaction
about 90
down,
right
brother.
Now. And Treasury yields have been lower for the most part. You're looking at the 2-year this morning, actually picking up a bit. It's now at 4.54%. The 10-year is yielding.
Let's see if it comes back. Let's see if it's the old fake out.
4.1%.
Is it the fake
watching
out?
For this number, and Rick Santelli is standing
Rick,
by.
give us Rick.
Take it away.
All right, our February read on the Consumer Price Index headline number expected to be up 0.4% is up 0.4%.
Okay,
now, if we look
in
at
line.
The most recent lower number in this series,
first one's in line.
in January, and we had 2.2s in November and December. So this is now a firming issue as we've had back-to-back
core
reads,
CPI year over year came in a little hot, 3.8 versus 3.7.
Now ex-food and energy also,
but month over month came in a little bit lower.
So we have back-to-back on headline and core up 0.4%. Now 0.4 equals the look we had last month on core. And the most recent
little hot
lower
on
number
core
was
CPI
October.
year over year.
0.2. That happened to have been the lowest since Feb of 21. So we're firming here. Now the year over year numbers also hotter than expected. 3.2 on headline year over year. That's 3.2. That would be the highest since Dees when it was 3.4. January remains
little
at 3.1.
Hot. Little hot.
Year core 3.8. Now, this is interesting. This is 1/10 hotter than we were expecting, but it's cooler than the rear view mirror because we had back-to-back 3.9s, which were the lowest since May of 21.
Little hot on those year-over-year readings.
Our current read, they find a lower read on core year over year. You're going back to April of 21 when it was 3.0. It should come as no surprise that interest rates shot up in 10-year up to 4.13. We're hovering around 4.11. Pre-opening equities
today just got a little spicy.
Really volatile. Right before the number came out, I saw up 2, up 4, minus
what a beautiful
8,
guy.
minus 9. Right now, though, you see it's minus 60 and counting. Now, that doesn't mean these numbers are going to stick. But when it comes to the interest rate side, I would say that as you look at the 2-year note, which was around 454, has moved up to 455.
Any hope of us getting a cut in March or April,
moved up from
gone.
4.8 to 411,
gone.
You want to pay close attention to the long end, especially after we're talking about budgets and deficits. The short end is going to be more about what's going on with the Fed. And before this number, we had the following setup. We had about 60 to 62% of a June cut, June 12th cut, and about 100% fully baked in for July 31st cut. And I'm sure those numbers are on the move. Becky, back to you.
All right, Rick, stay right there. We've got a lot more to talk about. And joining us right now with reaction to this new inflation data, we have Peter Earle, American Institute for Economic Research, senior
Not
economist.
what we necessarily
Skynet
wanted.
Almanac, who is Employ America Executive Director, and our very own senior economics reporter, Steve
And
Leisman.
yet it's
Steve,
somehow
let's get to
bounced
you
back.
first. I want you to dig down on
Little
the details,
sketch.
but first tell me, second month in a row that you're seeing higher core than expected. Is that a big problem? Does that change the narrative here?
It's a problem. I think Rick used the word sticky, and he had another word for it. It's not coming down at the pace it was. It is lower. Worth pointing out, the 3.8 is lower than the 3.9, but not coming down as much as had been expected. 3.9 was 2 months ago. 3.8 was 3.7 was last month, so it did tick up a little bit. But here's the thing.
Well, that
I got a goose egg
really
on food.
complicated today for me.
Owner's equivalent rent did come down. That's an important number down to 0.4 from 0.6.
All right, little shelter coming down.
Airlines shot up 3.6. Used cars down 1.8. New cars up 0.4%. That's what I was able to see here right now in terms of what the details were. So, yeah, the Fed's going to look at this and say, you know what, our idea of being patient here. I think there's also a question, and I was sort of on board with this idea as to the extent to which January was an anomaly. Not sure it was anymore. Maybe there is a certain plateauing now of the CPI numbers, and the Fed either has to stay where it is right now, at least for a little while longer, in order to break the back of it and get it down more towards the 2% area. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Peter, why don't you weigh in on this? What do you take away after getting numbers that are a little hotter and inflation not slowing the way people had hoped or expected?
Yeah, I expected the February CPI.
So 3.2 headline year over year.
We still have some seasonal effects.
Core 3.8.
It's interesting to see that food prices hadn't changed because I figured they'd be up a little bit too. I think what we need to see is what happens in super core.
Shelter
and specifically
5.7, transportation 9.9, medical care 1.1. This is the bad stuff right here, right above my head.
They still have in their
That's
back
not what they
pocket
want to
that they're gonna
see.
be patient. So I think that if we have if employment softens and if we see unemployment
at least
tick
used
up to
vehicles went down
4.1%, and it's the usual suspects coming up this inflation.
This is what's proving to be sticky.
I think we're for a rate cut in say June, maybe
Services. Shelter, medical care,
July,
transportation.
That off a little
These
bit.
are the three. 5.7, 9.9.
About what
That's
this means
good.
for Americans who are kind of
not good.
weighing through how they feel about the inflationary situation right now.
Thanks for having me on again.
I'm surprised the bulls bought this.
Data today,
that blows my mind.
For January and February, even last year, we saw upside. But if you take a step back and look at the year-over-year readings, they are continuing to trend down. Maybe for some consensus, not as fast as expected, but still trending down. January and February in the last 3 years have been on the spikier side. And if you look through the details of this print, you see a lot of volatile prices driving up. So I'm talking about used cars, airline fares. These are things that tend to be pretty volatile month to month. I think the Fed has reason to take some heart from the fact that we're finally seeing some progress on owner's equivalent rent. To what Peter said, it seems very reasonable to me as far as the summer being a time when the Fed
feels
might
like his
consider
collar is
interest rate reductions,
particularly tight.
But it's going to ultimately depend on further progress.
What did
in
he
inflation.
do with that
But we've kind
tie?
of gone
Was
through
he
the
just
January, February cycle.
as hard as,
this is a time when new
the collar
prices really
feel
shows up in the CPI
like
data.
real tight there, or is that
and
just
it
me?
seems to be more pronounced post-pandemic.
Feels
But by and
painful.
large,
You think it's fair to think that the Fed is looking at patience as a key word, and maybe that's the right way to take it when you see bounces like this in the numbers?
SPY somehow
I
going
think they
up.
have grounds
That's
for
crazy.
patience in the short
Gold
run,
also
but if we
going
do see
up.
further progress in March
Bitcoin
and
also
April,
going
that
up.
probably puts them in a better position to evaluate interest rate
Dollar
reductions. And they
did pop,
obviously need
which
to
makes
balance
sense,
this
but
against
now
what the
taking
labor
a
market is
hit.
telling them. At the time, right now, we have some mixed data, the unemployment rate ticking up.
Yields
but at the
pop
same
for a
time,
second,
job growth
coming
looking
back down.
reasonably strong.
Bonds
All in
drop,
all,
maybe
I
a
think
little
the
bit
Fed
of a
has
recovery.
The time to evaluate whether inflation is coming
Oil
down as fast as they hope.
chilling at
I'd
just below
actually say
78.
in the details, and especially from a PCE perspective, there's a lot of good information here
still
that
going.
goes beyond what core CPI tells us. Food services inflation also slowing. So there are signs for the Fed to have confidence, but they will want more data. I think that's natural. They probably will have a better ability to evaluate what's the underlying trend when we get to the May meeting and maybe the June meeting to see what's really appropriate.
Hey, Rick, let's talk a little bit more about the reaction in the Treasury market, because that probably tells us more about what the market is
Rick's
thinking
ready.
the Fed might do.
He's ready to let it rip.
You know, I
Let's
think
go,
interest
Rick.
rates are
Show
pretty
'em
well
what's what.
behaved considering the number. I disagree with our guest, Peter. I think the notion here is that we're not going to 2%. If anything, this data, if you really are unbiased, looks like we're going to settle out around 3%, maybe a little bit higher. But the issue becomes, will the Fed assume we're on the path to lower rates? Will they lower 1 to 3 times? The equity markets is looking at Treasury rates thinking, wow, they haven't moved that much. You actually have pre-opening Dow futures hovering around up 80 points. So they're definitely looking at this and thinking the Fed's going to see this data and they're going to maybe stay higher for longer. But
97% chance that we're not doing
really
anything in March.
Issue. So they bring rates down. Let's say they bring rates down to 3.5%.
What about
or
late
3
April, May? 81% chance they ain't doing
if inflation
anything.
looks like it wants to hover out
June.
around 3%, They can
All right,
always
June
hold it
is
there
when they're
slightly
pricing
higher
in a
for longer, and I think
67%
that's what
chance
the
of
market's
actually getting a
looking
rate
at.
cut.
Now, if
So it
you
looks
look
like a
at
rate
two
cut
things
as
that
of
we
now
normally don't
coming
talk about,
in
but I bring it
June.
up now
June.
every month. If you look at the non-seasonally adjusted CPI index itself, which goes back to the beginning, or the seasonally adjusted core index, which goes back to the beginning, both those indexes today are at new all-time highs. They are almost every month. So your middle class looks at that, and the inflation compared to 2017, 2018, 2019 is significantly higher. The rate of change is what the Fed's looking at, and even the rate of change still, no matter how you slice it, does not look like 2%.
Hey, Steve, you said something earlier this morning that I've been thinking a lot about, just the idea that if the numbers don't start to match what the Fed is thinking they should be when it's looking at owner's equivalent rent, some of the housing inflation that's there, they might kind of look at other numbers instead and take that one out of the picture. That we keep talking about patience from the Fed, and that says the opposite to me. That says that, no, they're looking to cut rates, and they're going to find a way to do that.
Yeah, I think you can look at it that way, but you can also look at it this way, Becky. You don't make a suicide pact with bad data, right? I mean, you don't say that I'm going to religiously follow this data no matter what, even while I have other good data that says, you know, this should not be happening. It did come down this time, so the Fed doesn't have to make that choice. You do hear them saying, look, they have acknowledged that the Zillow data, some of the other rental data, Diane Olick is the one all over that stuff. She brings it to us on a monthly basis. Almost every week there's new data on it, which shows rents around the country are coming down, right? And that there was also the statistical quirk that I don't want to bore everybody with that happened with the single-family rental rates that were out there, which is how the Fed does this. So
they're getting into the boring part of their talk, so let's get into something that might be a little bit useful for us degenerate traders. So the TLDR is nothing makes sense. Inflation just came out hotter than expected. The fact that inflation came out hotter than expected decreases the chance of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, the guy in control of our money supply, of an early rate cut. That means he's basically being forced to stay hawkish for longer until they pull off the safe landing. So the initial reaction makes sense. Yeah, when you have hot inflation, forcing your Fed to be more hawkish, this drop makes sense. The recovery, it went from about 410 to jumping over $4 to, $510 to over $514. Does it make sense? No, but the market isn't made to make sense. It makes sense in the long term, but on any small time frame, minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, that day, dude, the craziest can happen. The craziest stuff can happen. So if you're trying to make logical sense of a truly infinite multivariate puzzle here, don't. If you are a short-term trader, if you're a day trader, a swing trader, you just want to read the price action. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't. You're going to drive yourself crazy because it doesn't make sense. It's not meant to make sense. You're trying to make sense out of an illogical system. There's too much randomness involved. It's effectively mathematically randomness because of the amount of participants. It's borderline infinite. And when you have a borderline infinite amount of decisions being made every single microsecond, well, okay, how are you possibly going to model logic into that? So does it make sense? No, but still, just because it doesn't make sense doesn't mean you shouldn't just trade with the trend and like kind of get going with it. But anywho, inflation came out hotter than expected. It's really because of services. It's really because of shelter. It's really because of medical services. And it's really because of transportation. Those three subfields are proving to still be highly inflated, and they're proving to be sticky, i.e. their inflation rates, the rate of price increases is not coming down. I mean, transportation, it's up over 9%, and it's just cooking there. That is not good. That is not good. That is not good. So that's the TLDR of what came out. I do want to remind everyone very, very quickly at 1 p.m. today, 1 p.m. Eastern, with 3 hours to go in the market, we're going to be getting the results of the 10-year Treasury auction. If that goes poorly, look for the market to dump. If it goes well, look for the market to go up. And even if we get the results and it does one thing, also be on your toes for an illogical response, because the market can remain illogical longer than you can remain solvent. That is one of the most golden rules of trading. As much as you're bashing your head off the wall saying, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense, this does not make sense, it can remain illogical, quote unquote, wrong, longer than you can keep the money in your account. That is a golden rule. Do not forget it. Also, don't forget the other rule of bulls and bears eat, hogs get slaughtered. Also, don't forget the other golden rule of don't rob the same place twice. Those are the 3 rules of trading. Let's repeat them back. Let's drill them into each other's head. Don't rob the same place twice. Bulls and bears eat, hogs get slaughtered, and the market can remain illogical longer than you can remain solvent. Those are the 3 rules of surviving in this market, with a special emphasis on the don't rob the same place twice. What's interesting about that rule is not only is it good in the market, it's also just good in life. That's a good one in life as well. So just want to throw that one out there. Very quickly, before we move on to the next one, shout out to the wellness company. I finally got mine. Mine finally came in. I have to admit, it's pretty cool, pretty beneficial. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. And let me show you what's what and who's who. So right here, hey, that's actually literally the one I have. If you go to twc.health/cores, that's how you will get an additional 10% off. Folks, this is the stuff that we buy every single year. You're going to need it. Trust me, you need medical emergency kit, a travel kit, just all those basic things that you need. And it's one of those things that when you need it and it's not in your house, you get particularly frustrated. So instead of buying the exact stuff you're going to be buying anyway from one of these companies that doesn't care anything about you, check out the wellness company. Obviously, they've done a lot of things to prove that they have your back. Check out their track record. And officially, especially shout out to the Rumble supporters here, they are officially partnered up with Rumble. So right now, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video, every American should have at least one of these kits in their home, whether it's a global conflict causing shortages, supply chain breakdowns, another healthcare crisis, or anything the president is doing at the border. Being able to remove yourself from the healthcare system right now is the ultimate flex and the best thing you could do for your family. Ordering your kit is simple and takes less than 2 minutes. Go to twc.health/cores, KOHRS, and use the code CORES, KOHRS, to purchase your kit with $30 off and free shipping. $30 off, free shipping. Use the code CORES. Once you've paid, complete the intake form and your kit will be shipped to your door. No waiting for an expensive doctor's visit where they will likely would refuse your request for even one of these scripts. All 8 prescription medications shipped to your door in approximately 2 weeks. Go to twc.health/cores, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. And when you're checking out, make sure to enter that code CORES. Obviously, shout out to TWC, shout out to the partnership with Rumble. And hey, like I said, the main pitch that I could possibly give you is you're going to be buying this stuff anyway. Buy it for cheaper from a company that actually cares about you. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Awesome. All right, where are we at right? And the market's still going. It's still going. The SPY, 510.10, all the way to a high of 514.85. Well, at this point, we might have to clock the... no, we're not going to be that high. The all-time high is 518.22 for the SPY. Yesterday's high is 511.88. I'm bringing that to your attention because there's always high odds of a downside gap fill. Once again, 511.88. The Qs are at 441.18. This is crazy. 438.66. Now, I don't know how many of you necessarily saw the update video, but if you did see the update video, you know exactly what I predicted in the update video is apparently coming true. Out of the last 10 CPI days, the open of that day relative to the previous close was higher in 9 out of 10, 90%. And look at that. Math wins again. Math clearly wins out again. Now, if you want to know, well, hey, fancy math stat boy, is there any interesting math stats or figures for the actual day from market open to the close on the CPI day? And oddly enough, from open to close, it's about 50-50. 5 of the days were green, 5 of the days were red from the opening value on the day of the CPI. So the real statistical edge was playing the market close last night to the market open today, which clearly favored the bulls. So I hope you watched that video in time. And for all of those, and I know you guys are in here, for all of those of you who degenerately just like swung call options overnight, massive congrats. I mean, it was degenerate, but you deserve it. So if I were you, I didn't do it, but if I were you, when I am treated to a large, considerable gap up in my favor, take the money. Take the money. Like, you're there. You're up. You won. You did what you were supposed to do. You bought a lotto ticket and it printed. So take the money. You can always get back in, give yourself extra time. You can be a little bit more, I guess, smart with your degeneracy. But if you're staring a giant gap up in the face, take the money. Be like, thanks, market. Thanks, world's largest casino. But hey, obviously it's your money. Do whatever you think is appropriate. A couple other things I want to get into before the opening bell does go dingity ding ding ding. Another thing that went down last night was Oracle. Actually, really positive earnings reports. When I last looked at it, it was up 13%. Later on this week, you might care about Dollar Tree. You might care about Petco. You might care about Dollar General. You might care about Dick's, Adobe, Blink, Ulta. These are all ones that I've seen at one point or another people in here talk about. These are the earnings, so check it out. Feel free to screenshot this. Feel free to go to @eWhispers, and you could actually get this very, very cool X account. Oracle shares soared 13% on better than expected quarterly earnings. They beat the top line. They beat the bottom line, but that's not exactly why it's ripping right now. They did everything in their power to say NVIDIA as many times as they could. I don't know how many of you listened to the call. I don't know how many of you read the report, but their game plan was literally, okay, every other word, say NVIDIA. Talk about semiconductors, talk about AI, talk about databases, talk about NVIDIA. You know, about like a year ago when they were trying to say AI as much as they possibly could? Well, now they're trying to say just NVIDIA. Like literally, apparently just saying NVIDIA pushes your stock up billions of dollars. There's just like NVIDIA, NVIDIA, NVIDIA. And before we conclude this phone call, a couple more times, we would love to say the word NVIDIA. How can I get access to Discord if I don't have a credit card? Be an adult, get a credit card. I already literally answered your question. So the fact that you're asking again when my response was literally under your question is very, very odd. So two things, reading comprehension and just be an adult and get a credit card. I don't know what else to say. Can we get paid to say random garbage that makes no sense like these CNBC people? Probably. That is kind of the world of social media. That's how, that is literally social media right now, is you just get paid quite a bit to not say that much. Daily DGen report. Folks, you guys know that I thought I was wearing a very lucky Buffalo shirt on Friday. It turns out that not only was it not a lucky Buffalo shirt, it was an unlucky Buffalo shirt. And going into the market last Friday, my account was up 200%. I was up tens of thousands of dollars. I was up 200%. I was crushing it, absolutely crushing it. After Friday, I gave back half of those profits. So now the account was only up 100%. I took a very bad loss. So yeah, I get that you shouldn't complain. You're still up 100%. You're up tens of thousands of dollars and it's only the start of March. Why are you complaining? But it doesn't take away any of the pain that you were up more. And we just from a psychological standpoint, from a human standpoint, you're always looking for just more money. You always want another high water mark. And I obviously proved to be particularly unlucky. And not only was the trade unlucky, it was by all definitions a bad beat. The issue was when I doubled down on the bad position and then I quadrupled down because I doubled down on the double down. So it got quickly out of hand. So over the weekend, and this is really for all those of you who didn't watch the update video yesterday, your boy, I really need to hone in. I don't mind being a degenerate. That doesn't bother me. I just need to know like how degenerate I'm allowed to be. And Friday, I pushed the bounds. So starting officially yesterday, I'm basically self-committing to monk-like discipline until I make all of this money back. By all of my mathematical models, it's suggestive of the fact that it's going to take about 6 weeks, and that's kind of a positive, like optimistic time frame. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it live. I explained it all in this video, so you could check it out. But I hope you guys enjoy the journey with me. I already got some comments of people saying, actually, no, you are a bad trader. Actually, no, you're not going to make it back. There's people who are a lot better. And to all of those people who, for whatever reason, don't think that I'm exponentially better than them and the people that they think they're better, you can all go fuck yourself, because I am that confident right now. And the reason I'm that confident is because I think I'm one of the few people who will transparently show everything they're doing and also have the math and stats to back it up. All these other gurus and furus and their gut feelings. Oh, I have a gut feeling. Dude, if they were that good, they would show you their trades. They would show you their P&L. They would give you all of their trades if so asked, but they're going to hide it because they're scared, because they're all little fucking charlatans. So I'm going to prove it. Am I happy about this? Absolutely not. I'm very, very bummed. But also to the people who think that their favorite guru and furu is actually somehow better when they actually don't transparently show their trades, they're going to very, very quickly learn that they could go kick rocks. And I'll put my money where my mouth is. All my money, it's there. I'm going to document all the trades as I've been doing this all year. Literally the trades called out in Discord, shown, expressed. I give it out. I mean, I'm transparently showing you my wins. I transparently show you my losses. And this is day 2 of the official recovery. And we'll see how it goes. Obviously, it'll be a massive embarrassment if a month or 2 or 3 down the line, I'm not back where I should be. And I may blow up the account. Obviously, that's the risk of doing these types of things in real time. But I'm confident enough in my skill set. I'm confident enough in my statistical understanding of the market, of what I should be doing, when I should be doing it. And as long as I can rein in some of my discipline issues, world better watch out. World better watch out. So anyway, you could also get a newsletter. This is in the description of the video. This market is wild. And this is what AI generated when I said, generate a fancy Norwegian cat. And does that really have anything to do with the market? I would say metaphysically, on a deep spiritual level, it does. On the surface level, obviously it doesn't, but it's cool nonetheless. So like, my most basic pitch to all of you is sign up for the free newsletter, because even if you don't care anything about the market, at least on a weekly basis, you get a cool AI generated photo. So once again, this is a fancy Norwegian cat. I break down the market. I give you an idea of what I'm looking for the upcoming week, all the major macroeconomic events, all the earnings. I highlight the ones you're going to care about. And then I also give you the seasonality. This, in terms of like nerdy math stuff, this is probably the most applicable. So historically, today is a bit strange. 56% of the time the bulls win, so just slightly better than obviously flipping a coin. But when the bears win, they win at size. And that's why we're seeing the equity curve, which is generated by buying at open, selling at close, hypothetically, on the S&P 500 futures market on this exact day. You could see a dip, a slow bleed, and then a even smaller dip right here. So basically, even though the bulls win a higher percentage of the time, once again, when the bears win, they win considerably. So especially a couple of years ago, that was a big drop. So just something to consider. It's not the most, impressive seasonality day we've seen. And unfortunately, that's pretty much going to be the MO for the month of March. Historically, if you look at the past 4 or 5 decades of S&P 500 data, March is a very choppy month. It doesn't really ever favor the bulls, doesn't really ever favor the bears in aggregate. Obviously, there's some years where it favors the bulls, some years when it favors the bears. But if you look at it like the median return, March is just a very, very choppy month. It's not like other months where like the bulls clearly dominate, the bears clearly dominate. This month is a month where if you have good gains, probably not the most statistically wise decision to push your luck. Also update you on the options, and Piper yesterday had a 5 for 5 bearish signal, ended up hitting. So to everyone who took that, congratulations. To everyone who understands it, a bigger congratulations. 5 things to know before the stock market bell goes dingity ding ding ding. Today, Tuesday, March the 12th, another classic inflation day. Happy inflation day to all those of you who celebrate. As of right now, are we finally coming back down? Because that didn't and we're still pretty high. We dipped because inflation came in hotter than expected. Then we ripped, made no sense. We started to dip again, but it looks like it's just putting in a higher low. None of this makes sense. None of it at all makes sense. What are we doing? Hey, this just brings back the point that the market is very, very illogical. Cooling off, yeah. The market took a bit of a breather, but already bouncing back. The nation's inflation just came out higher than expected, moving higher. Oracle, it beat, but it's even higher than it should be because it just said NVIDIA over and over and over again on its earnings call, which, hey, strong move. Boeing's problems, all of them. I don't know what's going, it feels like every single week over the past half a year now, Boeing, hey, we have this problem. hey, we have this like it's always just a brand new problem. How many of you guys saw that crazy story of Boeing? There was a guy testifying and he just unalived himself. Did any of you guys see that? The sketchiest thing, let me find it. Actually, I just forgot that I was reading about this last night. I think CoffeeZilla tweeted about it. The sketchiest stuff is going on. No. Where was it? No. Did he not tweet about? Like, a man lost his life. All right. Boeing. Is there, let's see. This is Boeing. Right here. Boeing whistleblower found dead with self-inflicted wound days after he gave evidence against the plane manufacturer, citing safety concerns at the company. John Barnett's body was found in his truck in a hotel parking lot in South California. What? Is Boeing in the murder business now? The guy testifying a couple days later found unalived by himself? I did not know Hillary Clinton was on the board of Boeing. Wait, what was his video? We should give this a listen.
One, this is not a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections.
It was very much an Epstein situation.
The door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is, what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane, as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787, because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process. When I first started working at Charleston, I was in charge with pushing back defects to our suppliers. And what that meant was I'd take a group of inspectors and actually go to the supplier and inspect their product before they sent it in. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aerosystems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me that we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right. And she was mad. She said, no. Said the 2 inspectors were given 2 hours to inspect the whole 41 section and they were kicked off the airplane.
Yeah. No, that guy unalived himself, allegedly. So that's weird. Feels like maybe it's just not the best time to be involved with Boeing, but that news coming out yesterday. Crazy. The other crazy thing going on is, as of yesterday, Bitcoin hit a fresh new all-time high. And actually, I'll set up another alert just in case we're hitting one today. You never know with the craziness of an inflation report. But according to Coinbase, new all-time high, 72,943 and some change. Congrats to all of you degenerates who have been YOLOing your options, your just core investment, whatever it is related to crypto, because it is going higher and higher and higher. Right now, Bitcoin valued at 1.4 trillion, all of crypto valued at 2.7 trillion. As of now, Bitcoin has officially become more valuable than silver in real time if we took a snapshot. And it's also now more valuable than the Swiss franc as an entire currency. pretty freaking crazy. And obviously, there's a lot of glee, a lot of excitement going down. And there's a couple countries interested, but one country that's very happy is El Salvador. El Salvador is sitting on 84 million in profit from its Bitcoin holdings. This guy, the president, a lot of people said he was crazy. They're like, why are you doing this? And it turns out that it was the smart move. El Salvador is now sitting on 83 million profit from their Bitcoin investment strategy. And then the president actually talked about it. Bitcoin revenue from our passport program, revenue from converting Bitcoin to USD for local businesses, Bitcoin from mining, Bitcoin revenue from government services. El Salvador, crushing it. It looks like Argentina is going that way, and I wouldn't be surprised if Turkey follows suit as well, just because their local currency, the lira, highly inflated until Argentina has been experiencing a lot of inflation as well. So if there were the next two countries that seem like viable candidates to accept Bitcoin as its main national currency, once again, Argentina, Turkey, they seem to be the next ones coming down the pipeline. This Bitcoin bull run is breeding millionaire whales at a slower pace, according to data. Currently, less than 2,000 millionaires or wallets with 1 million worth of Bitcoin are created daily. That's significantly lower than the 2020 to 2021 bull run. This is actually a positive thing, but before we get into that, am I one of these 2,000 millionaires? No. If I become one, will I tell you? No. Well, maybe. I don't know. But would there be an extreme amount of signs? Without a doubt, folks. I'm intolerable now. Not only can most of you not stand me, I can't stand me. If I become a millionaire, I'd be the most fucking intolerable douchebag on the entire internet. Of course there's going to be signs. Do you know how many Buffalo shirts I would buy? Do you know how many cool exotic cats I would have in my house? Do you know how many Toyota Corollas I would have? Folks, if it happens to me, if I'm one of the lucky few, the world better watch out. The world better watch out. Less than 2,000 millionaires or wallets with 1 million worth of Bitcoin are created daily. That's significantly lower than the last bull run, which bred over 4,000 millionaire wallets per day and over 2,000 wallets with a $10 million balance per day. The slower pace might mean that the bull run is still in the early stages and the pace of inflows is yet to peak. The conclusion is consistent with market consensus that market prices could rise to 150,000 and higher if the coming months due to continued inflows in the spot ETFs and the impending halving-induced supply reduction. This slower growth rate of millionaires could be due to a few things. Number one, new capital has yet to arrive in its full force. Number two, large whales are taking profits as BTC hits new highs. Number three, whales are storing their holdings with custodians rather than personal wallets. Couple things going on. Two of them don't have the highest implications, but the other third reason means, oh wait, we might have more to go. Another just weird side crypto story I think might be interesting to cover. COPA, the COPA versus Wright. What's at stake as the trial to determine Satoshi's identity wraps up? We covered this when it first started, but it's been a bit just because the legal process takes forever. But it seems like we are getting closer to the conclusion. The Crypto Open Patent Alliance and Craig Wright will present their closing arguments this week in a case debating whether Wright is indeed Satoshi. We might be finding out who the actual creator is. The Crypto Open Patent Alliance and Craig Wright will present their closing statements in trial to find out if Wright is actually Satoshi. Well, actually or not, it'll just be more of the judge's decision. Justice James Mellor has not yet said when his decision will be out. Unfortunately, once again, the wheels of justice spin slowly. The results of the identity case against Wright could have implications on their ongoing cases and also massive financial implications because remember, Satoshi himself, I believe, has 1 million Bitcoin, 1 million times the current price. Whoever has access to that, that's a lot of dinero. This week's attorneys representing Bitcoin's developers and the COPA, an organization that says it's fighting for freedom from threats on crypto technology, will tell a judge that Craig Wright is not, in fact, Bitcoin creator Satoshi. Wright, who declared he was Nakamoto in 2016, will close his case arguing he did create what is now the world's largest and most valuable cryptocurrency. The closing arguments will wrap up a month-long trial by COPA, which seeks to prove Wright isn't Satoshi and deny him the ability to claim copyrights or sue under the name Nakamoto again. If Wright succeeds, he'll have a huge leg up in other cases he has against exchanges such as Coinbase, Kraken, and others. Lots of drama involved, lots of legal implications, lots of financial implications, but basically you have this guy saying, yeah, no, I'm Satoshi. Is he? Isn't he? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I've been listening to the case, but just I thought an interesting little side narrative I wanted to share with all of you. Speaking of side narratives, big announcement related to this company. Rum. Currently up 1%, trading at $6.75. I'm streaming to Rum right now. I'm invested in Rum, and I'm more happy than normal. Just yesterday, 4:43 p.m., 45 minutes after the market concluded for the day, Rumble Cloud. Hello, world. Official SEC statement. Rumble Cloud TM offers the first cost-effective opportunity for businesses to run a scaled infrastructure secured by a mission to protect a free and open internet. The timing could not be better as we're seeing massive internet outages everywhere. So not only is it very timely, but also just like morally what it is backing up seems to be pretty freaking smart. Rumble Cloud is designed to empower businesses to become independent from incumbent hyperscalers, unfair pricing, vendor locked-in strategies, and censorship. Rumble Cloud, which provides the backbone for Rumble.com, includes a portfolio of essential cloud computing services available for self-service, including virtual machines and Kubernetes orchestration, block and object storage, load balancers, and virtual private cloud options. So just to maybe get a little bit more outside of the world of like the technical nitty gritty of what it is and what it isn't, I think this video right here does a pretty solid job. But anyway, breaking news, Rumble.cloud launches to the public. Our cloud will bring top network speed and quality, but most importantly, we plan to disrupt the market with our pricing strategy. Before we get into this from the CEO and founder of Rumble, Chris Pavlovski, let me clarify for you, this cloud world of where we're going, it's estimated to be worth $3 trillion. I'm not saying million. I'm not saying billion. I'm saying trillion with a T. That is the estimated value of all of cloud. If Rumble is even able to get a sliver of that, what do you think that does to the value of the company? What do you think that does to the price? And then you have to ask yourself, okay, I see that. If they get a sliver of a $3 trillion industry, that's good. What are the chances of it getting a sliver? Well, ask yourself. Right now, when there is an abundance of censorship, internet outages, and basically a dystopian-like future where these cloud providers are saying what you can and can't do, and then there's one standalone company that's like, oh, no, actually, we're going to let you do what you want to do because we don't want to be authoritarian, feels like they have a pretty good shot in my estimation.
Rumble Cloud, your freedom, our promise. Break free from big tech's grip with a cloud service that champions your right to innovate. No vendor lock-in, no hidden fees, just transparent, predictable pricing. Trust a company that supports a free and open internet, ensuring your business thrives. Embrace true digital independence. Rumble Cloud, your freedom. Sign up today at rumble.cloud.
So on that, obviously, I want to shout out everything for them. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Any one of you who are fancy schmancy internet tech nerd peoples who could possibly use this, you could sign up right now and save 30%. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Right now, they're doing a specialty offering for all of you, 30% off. So for any of you who could potentially use this service, potentially interested, once again, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Shout out to Rumble Cloud. Actually, since we're talking about Rumble, let's see what the current short interest is anyway. Just feels like it's a timely topic before the market opens. We know they've been in quite the battle against someone on Wall Street, and we know one of the names is Culper Research. We don't know the names of the other, but slowly but surely, the interest is ticking back up. The short interest as of market close yesterday, estimated to be 18.22. Shares on loan, 17.6 million. Cost to borrow coming down ever so slightly, 43, but utilization actually going up. And remember, the max value here is 100%. So pretty much 99.3% of all shares that could be on loan, which is what you have to legally do to take a proper short position, are on loan against Rumble. So is there a battle between Rumble and Wall Street, or at least some form of entity or a grouping of entities on Wall Street? Quantifiably, yes. The answer is right there. It's highlighted in front of you. 99.3% of the shares that could be out on loan to go short against the company are out on loan. That's exactly why the cost of borrow is sky high, and that's exactly why daily now we're seeing a slight increase in the short bets against this company. Now, obviously, I have no crystal ball. I can't tell you where everything's going. I can tell you I'm a content creator on their services. I'm happy with my investment. Yes, I have stock myself, but it's not a trade. It's an active long-term investment. And then you might be thinking, well, why aren't you trading it if you're excited about the short thing? Well, it's because I'm more excited about things like Rumble Cloud. I get that it's this content platform, but think bigger. The way people talk about Tesla, and they're like, oh, they're making the car. But we all understand with Tesla, the long-term vision of a robo-taxi network could completely dwarf what's going on with its automaking business. So I look at Rumble, I'm like, okay, I see what's happening here. Great content platform. They care about freedom of speech, but you have to understand that this could go through a metamorphosis to be a company that a lot of its revenue and its growth could completely dwarf what the video content platform actually is. So for me, when I hear about things getting into the world of cloud, especially right now with the hype of semiconductors, data centers, crypto, AI, that's big. It's a big deal. Now, do I know if they will properly execute on it? I don't know. I mean, I've met the team. I have a lot of faith in them, but obviously there's a lot of unknown random variables in the future. But I have to say, in terms of risk reward, I'm really liking the reward and I'm willing to accept the risk. Nothing's ever going to be guaranteed in the market, but I think there's particular reason for the investors, not really talking about active traders. Obviously in the short term, there's randomness, but for investors to be excited. And I think there's legitimate reason for the shorts, the bears, the people taking out all of these shares on loan to be legitimately worried. We'll see how it all plays out when the dust settles. So once again, if you want to check it out, pin to the top of chat in the description of the video. All right, we have about, 10 minutes, 15 minutes till the market opens. I want to see if there's any breaking news. Obviously, this morning, if you're just tuning in right now, you're late. You're demerit. You are late to class. You were supposed to show up early. It was a big day this morning. And if you missed it, you missed a lot. So at 8:30 this morning, we got the CPI report, the Consumer Price Index report. The number came in higher than expected, which means inflation came in higher than expected. That's no bueno. You might be thinking, hey, Matt, that seems like it's no bueno. Why did the market go up? Because the market's drunk, dude. I don't know. I'm not the market's mom. I have no idea why it went up. Does it make sense that it went up? Absolutely not. The market was hotter than expected. That's craziness. So this little sell-off here, that's actually logical, but this initial reaction made sense. The pop did not make sense. We're drifting down to pretty much right where we were before the report came out anyway. So it's drunk. The market needs to go home. It needs to get a cup of coffee. It needs to chill out. It needs to do something realistic, but I don't know what it's doing. A little bit of craziness. We appear to be opening above yesterday's high, which means we do have a downside gap fill opportunity to 511.88. We're going to see how that plays out. Similar situation with the Qs, downside gap fill to 438.66. Who knows? By the time the market opens, we might be below it. There might be no downside gap fill. So anyway, want to bring that to your attention. Bitcoin is actually looking real good, within flirting distance of a new all-time high. We do have that marked out, so if it does hit, we have an alert going off. So Bitcoin looking strong. The market unreasonably strong, if you ask me. Gold did pop, coming down right now. What's going on with the dollar? The dollar making a recovery. Bonds going down. What else do we want to check in for overall macroeconomic situations? Let's look at yields popping. If yields are popping, that makes sense because bonds are going down. So yields up, bonds down, gold down, dollar did drop, going up. Somehow Bitcoin's holding on, and somehow the market's currently holding on. So right now the picture's a bit of a confusing one. A little bit of, well, that doesn't all make sense the way this stuff is intertangled. But that's the fun part. The fun part is us just trying to make sense out of something that you probably shouldn't be trying to make sense out of. All right, let me load up the Qs chart just so we have this. So as of right now, the 5-minute, the 10-minute, and the 30-minute are all bullish, but I do want to bring to your attention that the 5-minute looking a little bit suspect, the 10-minute looking a little bit suspect, and the 30-minute testing the point of looking a little bit suspect. 5-minute on the Qs. Oh, this is awkwardly wide. 5-minute on the NASDAQ, the tech sector, suspect, 10-minute suspect, and the 30-minute is texting the suspect right now. So yes, I get that the overall moving averages are currently favoring the bulls. But if you had to ask me right now which way today goes, I would say you need to freaking wait because there's no clear direction. There's no clear bias as of right now. I get the pop. Well, I don't get the pop. It makes more sense that the pop was like smashed right back. So I would say patience is going to be the key today. That would be my main thought. But hey, maybe you have a better thought. Maybe you have a more profitable thought. And I hope it does work out for you. But I, for one, will be waiting calm, cool, and collected. Good morning, bro. Calls are posted today on the SPY. By the way, I'm still waiting for you to toot that thing up. I have no bias right now. Updates on the CPI. Trev, show up to class on time. You're that kid who walks in where everyone was already sitting in their seats, diligently taking notes, and you're like, hey, professor, what's going on today? And I'm already balls deep in the discussion. You get 2 demerits. 2 demerits, Trev. That is so unreasonable for you to come in an hour late and think that we haven't talked about CPI a plethora of times today. That is ridiculous. If you think you're just going to come in here and be like, hey, man, give me go use Google. Go ask Siri. That is crazy. You're lucky I don't kick you out of class. That is, honestly, not only is it directly disrespectful to me, but it's disrespectful to the class. And it's really disrespectful to the people who got up at the crack of dawn, crushed the stair stepper, showed up to class on time, and really had their life put together. And then here you are, like, hey, inflation? That's crazy. You're a crazy person. You're legitimately a crazy person. All right. Let's see if there's any other interesting movers that might just be worthwhile to have on our watch list today. So yields may be coming back up into their EMA cloud. So I'd be looking for a close above it, maybe potential trend reversal. But first, let's start with the SPY. The SPY hit an all-time high on Friday. Today, it looks like we're going to already have at least an up range day, but could be a bullish engulfing candle, but opening up higher than the high from yesterday. Look for the downside gap fill to 511.88. Downside gap fill. High odds that plays out. Not a guarantee, high odds. Similar situation with the Qs. We're gapping up above yesterday's high, downside gap fill to 438.66. Gold, after hitting an all-time high on Friday, taking a bit of a breather. Yesterday was an inside day. Right now, we already have a downrange day, so I wouldn't expect a recovery there. Bitcoin, as of now, an inside day, but obviously could change. We have quite a bit of time left in the day. Yesterday, we had a bullish engulfing candle hitting a new all-time high. Meta coming right back down into its range. Nvidia, bullish engulfing, leading down. If semiconductors can recover, I would look for the Qs to recover, but this is kind of indicative of, the run needs a little bit of a breather. Similar situation in AMD, similar situation in SMCI. Tesla attempting to save itself right here at 175. Important support from early Feb. We sold down into it. Bounce, 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 bounce. So buyers are showing up. The question is, do they have enough chutzpah? If they don't, and if we close below 175, I would say I'm paying attention to 164. Apple also trying to save itself. Try to save itself a little bit early at 168. I'm actually really surprised we didn't hit 166. So I'm still watching out for 166 on Apple, which has not had the best of year, especially relative to the rest of the tech sector. Coin, obviously this is going to be highly correlated to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin keeps going up, look at Coin, look at MicroStrategy, look at Mara, look at Riot. Personally, I still like playing Bitcoin. Like if I like Bitcoin, I want to play Bitcoin. I don't want to play a somewhat correlated asset, especially if the argument is, oh, I want leverage. You can get leverage. It's not that hard to get leverage. So I'm not I could understand playing those other ones if you're playing them for a specific reason, but if you're playing them because of your optimism or pessimism related to Bitcoin itself, just go play Bitcoin. And if your argument is leverage, go get it leveraged. It's not like it's easy to pull off. Netflix going sideways, Microsoft going sideways, Amazon actually showing a little bit of weakness, failed breakout attempt from its range. IBIT, this is BlackRock's, looks like we're opening up to a new all-time high. ETH, holding 4,000. ETH is looking good. Solana now all the way up to 151. Crude oil going sideways just below 80. Bonds taking a bit of a breather. It looks like we are not going to get this breakout attempt. And what else do I have? One of my buddies I think one of my buddies has damn near 6 figures in this meme coin. So I've been watching it just because like I'm vicariously living through his degeneracy. And he got in, I believe, around 1.5 cents. And now it's at 4.5 cents. So I'm definitely rooting for him. Speaking of degen crypto, how is Pepe? Pepe's somehow holding. What are the other degen ones? Bonk. How's Bonk doing? I want to clarify. I have none of these. Bonk, Doge. Doge is holding. How are all these holding? Shiba. Dude, none of this makes sense to me. None of this, dude. We live in crazy times. Be careful. Can you make money on this insanity? Without a doubt. But also remember, you can easily get rocked as well. So just don't be the last schmuck holding the hot potato. If you're playing a game of hot potato, you better be quick with the hot potato. You better be quick with the hot potato. All right? Don't be the people who are slow with the hot potato. Rumble. I always wait for CPI, current pickle index. Why? Oh, yo. Usually I'm too loud. And Piper doesn't like to hang out in the studio with me. But Piper picked me today. You guys can't see her. You're going to have to trust me. I wouldn't lie to you about this. But she's oh, hi. Oh, hey. She picked me today. The cat picked me today. My fiance can go fucking kick rocks, dude. Piper always picks her. And I got picked today. I'm top dog. I'm the market. Dude, hell, it's going to be a good day. That's definitely, dude, I wouldn't lie about Piper. I would literally lie about anything else except for Piper. Anything else. I have no moral qualms with the general concept of lying like ferociously to all of you. But where I would draw the line is at Piper. I'm telling you something about Piper and her napping ability. Dude, she knows we're talking about her too. Her ears perk up every time I say Piper. Dude, she's a little gremlin. This has nothing to do with the market, but I do need to share this story. Over the past 2 weeks at 6 a.m. So she's a cat who, like, if you're moving your feet under like the whatever your blankets on your bed, she'll like think it's something and like pounce on it, blah, blah, blah. She's been getting into this thing where at 6 a.m, not on top of the bed, she'll stand up on the side of the bed and she puts her paw under the blanket to find your bare foot. And she just like drags a claw on it. I cannot tell you the flashbacks I had to being a toddler with the monster under the bed. Do you know how unsettling it is at 6 a.m. when it's still dark out to feel a little claw on your bare foot? It's happened to me literally every single day for the past week and a half, right past 6 a.m. She waits. At least it's not in the middle of the night. She has a little respect for me. But in general, she doesn't have that much respect for me. She just stands up on the side, slides her paw under the blanket, finds my foot, and just drags her claw on it. It is the creepiest thing you could ever be woken up to. And that's been every single day of my life for the past week and a half. Gotta sleep with socks. Dude, I'm not flexible enough to show you like the giant hole in the side of my foot. The first time it happened, I freaked out and it caused her to claw my foot. And I just have like an actual wound, like a true battle wound from fighting this jungle cat that lives in my house. It's become a thing. It's become a big thing in my life. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we should get back to what's happening with the market. So YouTube, your votes have been tallied. I do want to remind you that the trading competition and whatnot between Rumble and YouTube, the round 3 starts tomorrow. round 3 is starting tomorrow. So everyone, unlike me, you better get a good night's rest. You better be ready to litter all rip tomorrow. Round 3 starting between Rumble and YouTube. With that being said, YouTube, I just got your votes on Rumble. I need yours. Rumble, 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 Rumble. Are you feeling bullish or are you feeling bearish at market open? Bullish or bearish at market open? Bullish, bearish, 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 bullish, bullish, bearish. Okay, so Rumble's feeling a bit more bearish. And YouTube's feeling more bullish, but this is how they've always done it. And YouTube's been getting it wrong. All right, well, unlike yesterday, I'm not going to mess this up. Remember yesterday, I clicked the wrong box, clicking the right box today. Rumble, I'm going with you. Rumble, Rumble, Rumble. I just clicked on opening bear. This is for you, Rumble. Do not screw me over. Do not screw me over. I am a couple days away from being able to take out $2,000 on 13 different accounts if I trade very well. But we're going to see. We're going to see. These should be firing off in 45 seconds. Let's see how today works for me. Let's see. The code should be right. It's all set up. I don't think anything got disconnected. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. I'm at the point of I'm scared to ask. I don't know if I need to have the instrument selected. I don't know. We're going to see. I have not had a perfect day of getting this stuff to all fire off at the right time. One of these days I will. Yesterday was actually really, really close. I just got unlucky. So no wheel spin. That'll be tomorrow when we start the competition. I have 2 accounts ready for you guys to go. I just need 1 more account approved, and we are going to start the trading competition between Rumble and YouTube. Round 3 tomorrow. Rumble has won the first 2. If YouTube chat
order submitted.
Rumble.
Rumble. Order filled.
Rumble. I swear, Rumble, if you fuck me over on this. Rumble. Rumble.
Order filled. Target filled.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Holy shit. Rumble. The fuck's your problem this morning? Why? All right. Feels like YouTube's ready for the next competition because Rumble's showing up drunk and hungover and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Holy shit, Rumble. Dude, if you guys are going to compete like that, you're going to get blown out of the water. Blown out of the water. Anyway, another day, another win for the OGs. Locked it all in. 175, 240, 300, 145, 150, 180, 130, 135, 180, 175, 290, 210, 110, 230, 360, 150, 270. My goal is, okay, so you guys are going to be trading on these 2 accounts. They're fresh accounts at 50,000. It's officially starting tomorrow. So that's why I didn't trade them. That's why I'm not touching them. But these other accounts, I'm trying to pay myself and get some actual money. And to be able to take out money, I need to get up to 52,600, I believe is the minimum requirement you have to have in your account or something like that. So I'm trying to hit that by a week from today. a week from today, the 19th, I'm hoping that all of these accounts say at least 52,600. We have a couple that are getting close, like 52.2, 52, 52. A lot of high 51s, 51.9, 51.7, 51.7, 51.6. We have some that are a little bit more suspect, 51. That one's a bit farther away. But ideally, I think I could theoretically get 15 of these to actually work. But another good day. Slowly but surely, I will get there. I'm confident. Oop, I forgot to turn off the strategies. This is always what screws me over, is I don't turn them off and then I end up getting completely destroyed. Yeah, we'll save that. Cool. If you're interested in that form of degeneracy, I believe it's pinned to the top of chat. I highly recommend checking it out. It's fun. You basically pay a small fee to take a test. If you pass the test, then they'll fund an account for you. And if you trade well on it, you can take money out. So I have those 20 accounts. It's not like I have $1 million to fund 20 different accounts at 50K. I'm using their funding, their system to do it. So check it out. Pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. I myself have already taken out over 10 grand from it. So the test is not easy to pass, but if you do pass it, and then if you trade well afterward, you can take money out of the system. And in fact, my producer, the guy who makes all my intros, the guy who does all my thumbnails, he's at the point where he's actually about to take out 4K this Friday. And I'm expressing that to you because this is a guy who does not trade. He is not some prolific trader with all these decades of experience on Wall Street. He's as degenerate as we all are. And my own producer taking out $4,000 this Friday. So is it possible? 100%. I'm taking out money. My producer's taking out money. It's fun. It's degeneracy that's, I would argue, a bit contained. What are all these alerts? Rum. Ooh, bullish breakout alert. Makes sense with the Rumble Cloud. Up 9% this morning. All right, we got to watch Rum. Rum's the only green thing. Everything else is getting clocked. Downside gap fill just hit on the Qs. Looking for the downside gap fill to hit on the SPY. One thing I do need to very quickly check. All right, let's put that in there. SPY. How much did we open up today? We opened up 0.4. I need to know that just for a little bit of analysis here. What quintile are we in? If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's why you should be in the Discord. We opened up in the 4th quintile. The chance of us closing above yesterday's close is 74.66%. The chance of us hitting the close, like trading down and hitting the close of yesterday, that value is about 50-50. 50-50 shot of hitting yesterday's close at some point intraday today, but the chance of today's close being above yesterday's close is 75%. 75%. Interessante. The super secret mathematical analysis of Matt Kors. Folks, if you haven't already, just for a little bit of love of degeneracy, could you guys hit that? Oh, we're about to get that. So congrats to everyone who played the downside gap fill on the SPY and the Qs. That was an easy peasy lemon squeezy play. Easy peasy lemon squeezy play. I see you guys talking about Rumble and TikTok. I think Bongino just talked about that. Yeah, we follow each other. Not a big deal. TikTok is run by all the wrong people. Let a Rumble-directed team take over. Free speech will reign. An offer from TikTok from the CEO, Chris Pavlovski. Dear Mr. Chu, in the event that ByteDance divests its ownership in TikTok, Rumble is ready to join a consortium with other parties seeking to acquire and operate TikTok inside the U.S. Specifically, we are ready to serve as a cloud technology partner. Rumble Cloud just released. Yesterday, Rumble announced the public launch of Rumble Cloud, a new infrastructure as a service offering that champions the free and open internet. All data on Rumble Cloud is stored safely and securely at sites inside the US and Rumble's own neutral and independent infrastructure. Additional information: Rumble's offer to serve as a partner to a consortium to acquire and operate TikTok is subject to the negotiation of a definitive agreement. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. Dude, I think people are sleeping on Rumble. I really, really do. I really, really do. I think people are sleeping on it. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Dave Portnoy is streaming to... Wait, this is the guy who is getting demolished on the internet.
Access them. So on the other side, the question is, what are you selling? We decided to operate in the crypto space. So what we sell is digital collectibles, and then we also have physical merchandise, but we've been giving that all away for free.
We literally reacted to how horrible this guy was.
Then?
Well, that's our business, is an NFT thing, but we also trade.
Isn't that like dead though? Isn't NFTs dead?
Yeah,
well,
pretty much.
So we were planning to give you the first honorary NFT. The truth is, from our collection, the truth is, no, it's not dead. There's something like $100 million in volume yesterday just on NFTs. So, which is probably more than when you're out trading Spirit Airlines, which sounds like a choose poor decision. I'm gonna be honest, dude. Like,
no, the poors need to fly too. Choose
that
rich
is
Nick.
true. That is true.
The poors need to fly.
This guy's such a douchebag.
The poors flying will make me rich. I
Such
think.
a
I'm not gonna
douchebag.
fly with them. But
Okay.
they gotta get from point A to point B too somehow.
Okay.
So, all right, the NFT, because I am a crypto guy. So you own Bitcoin?
I own Bitcoin. I own Solana.
Yeah, that's another one people say.
Avalanche would be the other one that I own. So I'm the Sergeant of Solana. You haven't seen that? I walked around Washington Square Park dressed up like a soldier, offering people a Solana or $1, and they all picked $1 for the most part. Avalanche, I'm the AVAX Admiral. So that's another thing that we have going on.
What price did you get in at Bitcoin?
Bitcoin, my average price is around 13,000.
13. So you were late to Bitcoin.
Well, the first time I bought it was $100.
And then you sold it.
I sold it for a 2x.
Got it. How much did you have of that?
I had actually just sold a media company at that time, and I had a lot of money just sitting around. And it was a small amount though. It was like 10 grand or something. But
how old are you?
I'm 42.
That you could have said anything right there, and I would have been in on it. You could have said 22. You could have said 42, 62. I probably would have believed it. All right. So you got all this different stuff going on.
He's streaming to 44,000 people on Twitter.
It sounds like
Holy
the
shit.
gist of it is a media. So all the community notes, all this stuff. This is gold for you.
Just like the haters have been gold for you, man. It's the same thing. It's spark controversy. I'm looking like they still don't believe. The losers, the haters on Twitter can't actually believe that I could live the life that I've decided to live, that I've chosen.
I don't believe it.
They think it came through birth. They think I don't have what I have. They think that it's not possible.
I don't think you have
but
what
it
you
is.
have.
You're a walking, living, breathing version of this, Dave.
So are you saying that the community notes they failed? Like when they're like, I've seen a couple, like when you're saying it's your own car, they're like, he's in an Uber, you're in a movie theater, they're like, he's sitting in like the lobby of like a Red Roof Inn, all this stuff, and your answer is saying the community notes got it wrong with you?
I mean, there's specific statements that they've made which are factually inaccurate. That's all I can say about that, Dave. That's all I can say.
So do you like Bitcoin at this price?
Yes.
So Bitcoin at any price then?
Not at any price. I'm not one of those people. My target right now. Okay, this is not financial advice. I know you have the disclaimer at the beginning of your show. So there's different levels that we would be looking at. $250,000 would be the target for this cycle, in my opinion, is where I'm aiming. And your better bet is Solana. Because for it to go to all-time highs, it was at 250. Right now, it's at like 150 or 280, something like that. You still have nearly a 2x to get to where their all-time high is. Bitcoin's already beyond it. A lot of people have said it'll go to $1,000. My target for this cycle would be 500. So you could buy something at 150. It goes to 500. Why aren't you going to do that? Why am I going to leave my IRA making 7% versus go out and buy? I'm buying IBIT.
I mean, I have no issue with Solana. I just don't like this guy.
Bitcoin pump, right? And then
his vibe.
And then I have
he might be cool. Maybe I'm talking shit on a cool guy, but I don't know. His vibe's off.
Solana, Avalanche. I have a little bit of Ethereum. I have meme coins, obviously. People named one after me, which has become one of the biggest meme coins in the past 48 hours or whatever.
What's the name of it?
Man, I feel bad mentioning because I have nothing to do with it. Nick is the one that is pumping the most. And then someone in our community created a rich one. Those are all on Solana. But if you want to get into meme coins, it would be like Whiff, Bonk.
I got fucked so hard with meme coins. I don't fuck with it. Well, I was well, I don't even know that they're meme coins, but you know, the ones that I don't know, I was a Link soldier at one point, got murdered.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was an early
about to hit the
soldier on
close
that.
from
The
yesterday
second
and
I
the
got
spine
in,
the
got
cues.
slaughtered. Safe Moon absolutely got rug pulled on that. Not only did I get rug pulled on that, I got mentioned in the lawsuit. I got served papers when I lost all my money and had nothing to do with it. I had to pay money to get out of the lawsuit because they thought Safe Moon paid me to promote it, which they did not. I just was an idiot.
Dude, those are the haters I'm talking about, dude. They're not letting us just choose rich. I've had enough of this nonsense. The haters need to stop. And you're just
Hughes
charging
just hit
forward,
the close
Dave.
from yesterday.
You're choosing rich every day. You wake up and you decide
Just hit the close.
You dodge the haters. You try to avoid them so that when they come sniping at you, you don't get knocked down.
Yeah, I knew when I saw you, I hate myself for it. It's like, because you
options are picking up right here though. Interesting.
I unfortunately like this guy. It's interesting. Do you fuck with stocks at all or just crypto?
The show that I started, so I just came from our morning show. The show that
we're just going to 19 different shows, just rotating shows. Choose red.
I'm about to be done with shows and work on the business, but in terms of the show started when stonks were like a thing, when Wall Street Bets was happening. I was trading stocks at that time when Davey Day Trader was born and birthed. I was actively trading stocks at that point in time and did really well doing some. I had shorted the market pre-COVID using options, and that did really well. I do trade stocks as well. But right now, man, stocks are pumping. It's
SPY's about to hit the close
out there with some of them, but
5-11-26.
So outside of Spirit Airlines, which ones are you buying right now?
So I went house on Celsius. That's been a huge win for me.
Celsius is ripping.
Right before earnings, I decided because I think they're going to pass Monster. Like I do. I think the product's that much better. So they've been good.
I agree.
Luckily, I got out on holdings because they got slaughtered today. What else? Spirit, I still like. It can't be lower. Rumble, I own a bunch of. That came back down. Axon.
Man.
SPY just hit the low from yesterday. Or, excuse me, the close from yesterday, which was a 50-50 shot.
I'm a little
makes sense with this earnings.
I'm not doing
the CPI.
As much as I was during Davey Day Trader. When things were, that was the time to be alive. I'm too busy to do it. And then I have my basic stuff. So those are just scrolling through what I have a bunch of.
So you're too busy doing it. Why don't we just take over that division and run it as our enterprise? Because that's all that we're focused on.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some research. I don't even know where to find you.
Well, you found me on Twitter.
Yeah, but like you said, this show. What show were you on? What do you have a website? Like what?
It's NFT Morning Show. We're actually literally an agency we're working with is updating the website, so the whole brand is going under Bodagos. But we have a newsletter called The Daily Bone. The site right now is thenifty.com, but honestly, I wouldn't even send people there. I'll give you my email. I'll send you all the links and stuff.
All right. I'm looking at I'm trying to see a couple of the comments. Asking what kind of sunglasses he's wearing. Looks like something at Cumberland Farms. Hater.
Zing. We got haters out here.
That's a good one. Cumberland Farms.
Yeah,
Mark
another
is
guy,
getting
unfortunately,
murked.
I like this guy. Will you ask him about Fetch? I don't know what Fetch is. I don't know what it is.
I have no idea. So our comments are filled.
All right, I'm getting tired of that guy. Getting tired of that guy. Dude, should I be streaming on X? Look at these numbers. What's me, Kevin, up to?
Right. Hold on.
He's looking at SoFi.
0.0.
What's the whole internet up to these days? What are these guys doing?
Like Market Chameleon.
A bookmark guy? Who are these people? Of course I know Dave. Of course I know me, Kevin. Benzinga streaming. Feels like we have what's this? Special counselor to defend Joe Biden's poor memory report to House panel. Well, that's going to be exciting. Special counsel Robert Hur to defend Joe Biden's poor memory report to House panel. You got me hooked. You got me hooked. Joe Biden's poor memory? Sign me up. We're definitely listening to that. 100% we're listening to that. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so the SPY hitting the close from yesterday, the Qs hitting the low from yesterday. Rum had a big pop on the news about offering to buy TikTok or as part of a consortium. Meta's in the green, Nvidia's in the green, but everything's dipping right now, team. Team. Everything is dipping. Everything's dip city. Vomit fest. Makes sense. Inflation report came out at 8:30 this morning, and it was hot. It was as hot as Margot Robbie. It was as high as Snoop Dogg. It was not what it was supposed to be. I don't use Twitter, so I'm used to saying Twitch. Well, I'm never going on Twitch because fuck those people. Is this starting? This feels like it could get a bit fun. When does anyone know the time that this starts? Special counsel Robert Hur to defend Joe Biden poor memory report to House panel. Anyone know anything about this? The time? Yes, no, maybe so. Yes, no, maybe so. Yes, no, maybe so. Margot Robbie is starting to show some aging. Yeah, aging like a fine wine. That's what she's aging like. 10? You guys tell me. I'm asking you guys. All right, a little bit of a bounce here. Options has been kind of like all over the place. What time are we doing? Options. The options market is trying to decide if it actually wants to buy this dip or not. Let's see. Raise your hand if you think this is the low of the day. And then if you don't think it's the low of the day, if you think we just keep vomiting from here, give me the old thumbs down. I need to do a rough analysis of how many bulls are in here, how many bears are in here. And don't vote on what you want to happen. Vote on what you think legitimately is going to happen based on your trading knowledge and market reading and this and that. Down, vomit, waving, thumbs down. You guys are some negative. Wait. We have all of YouTube now voting down, even though 60+% of them voted bullish this morning. Are you guys ever going to make up your move? Ever make up your mind for what the move's going to be? Sideways, backwards. Nevermore is literally voting backwards. All right. Bubble is going to pop one day because I think it's going down. Up because you think it's going to go down. All right. We're going to see. We're going to see. Should I do a degenerate trade on public? Why not? When in Rome, you know? Let me find the SPY. All right, here's the vibe of the day. Red breaking down. Red breaking down. That's not. But option. Whoa, options just popped there. Options had something to say about that one. Options. What are we at? Do I want to do this? Is this smart or stupid? Do we pop from here? Options are trying to buy that. Are we about to get murked? All right. I am in at, what am I in at? I am in at $1.31. Sell. Next. Sell. Faster. It already dropped. Shit. What did I do? Wait. Did I get out? Did it sell them? Yeah. Sweet. All right. I bought 100 at, I guess it gave me 131. And then I just got out of the 100 at 136. So I made 400. I made 400 and then the other 36 from the rebates. So just made a little pop there. 500, easy peasy. Your boy paid for dinner. A little bit of a dinner payment, you know? Dude, Piper and I are going to be eating good tonight. You hear that, girl? You're going to get some catnip tonight. It's my catnip, Bill. It's the only way I can afford this stuff is degenerately scalping at a random point in the day. So, like, Trex, you know it's not luck. Dude, I do nothing but, like, ooze an absurd amount of skill. An absurd amount of skill. You think it's luck. Yeah, if you think being, like, I don't know, literally the best trader ever is just luck, yeah, no, it's totally luck. You're right. It's just luck that I can literally read the market better than I could read a Dr. Seuss book. And don't be one of the funny guys saying, oh, well, that's just because you don't know how to read at all. So, of course, you just inherently know how to read the market better. That's not nice. No, I do have issues reading. That's right. But it's also just not a nice thing for you to say. Not a nice thing for you to say. What's the commission? There's no commission. Look it. No commission fees. No per contract fees. The most cost-effective way to trade options. Earn 18 cents rebate per contract traded. That's when you buy and when you sell. No other brokerage does it. No commission fees, no per contract fees, the most cost-effective way to trade options. You can lock in the deal, and you have about 20 days left. You have till March 31st. March 31st. March 31st. If nuclear war breaks out, would we even know? I'd rather live in the dark. I'd rather them not tell me. I think ignorance is bliss. I think ignorance is bliss on that front, brother. I don't know why we're even looking at Amazon this morning. Rum coming back. All right. Let's go to the 3 minute. Let's see how things are shaping up on the day. Where are we? Dude, what a whipsaw of a day. What a freaking whipsaw of a day we might be having. We're pumping now. We're freaking pumping now. Well, that doesn't make sense. Hey, that doesn't make sense. Oh, brother. Oh, don't need those alerts. We have volatility up the wazoo this morning. Volatility up the wazoo. We have serious volatility up the wazoo. Let's see if I could get some sort of fill. Nope, not going to get a fill with that kind of movement. I don't get why, though. I just don't get why there isn't like some special thing for me to permanently get like my fills whenever I want. Like, why can't there be like a special like Matt Core's liquidity pool? Like, is it really that much to ask for? Just like whenever I want something, I'm allowed out. It's honestly one of the biggest issues that I've run into really with this credit selling strategy is at the end of day, some of these liquidity things are a little bit suspect. Little bit. If you are in the Discord, I'm putting in my trade right now. Little bit of a degenerate one, especially because Piper hasn't fired off yet. But let's see how it goes. What did I do? All right, fired it off. All right. If you want to sign up for that Apex thing, it's in the description, but I'm taking them down because they're actually not the sponsor of today. And for those of you who are like, wait, Discord, trading group, trading strategies, private lectures on the weekend, that's my cup of tea. It is right now pinned to the top of chat. It is, if you click on it, it looks like this. When you sign up, the first month is free. All you have to do is use the code Goonie. Make sure it's applied when you are checking out. Make sure it is applied or you're going to get charged for the first month and then you're going to get angry. So make sure, see how it, like when I reload it, see how it takes a second to apply. And then when you hit subscribe, make sure it's in the checkout that it's there. Just want to throw that out there. First month is completely free. If you like it, great. I hope you stick around. If it's not your cup of tea, no harm, no foul. You didn't have to pay anything anyway. Just make sure you cancel the account so you're not actually charged. But anyway, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. Like I said, you get my trades, you get Piper signals, you get other people's trades, you get private lectures on the weekend, some sports gambling, some gaming, some other educational stuff. It's really cool thus far. It's been exploding this particular year to the point that probably within a month or two, I'll have to raise prices again to like slow down the growth because it sometimes gets to the point of being unmanageable. I think we're actually like maxing out how many people can even be in voice chat. But anyway, pinned to the top of chat in the description of the video. And if you guys want, you know what? If you want to be in there today because it is a crazy day with CPI and everything, 15 min timer. I will manually update the database in 15 minutes. So if you want in today, and obviously this would start your month free trial, I'll give you about 15 minutes to get it rocking. The database updates once a day at a random time. I don't know when it does it. I'd have to ask my coder, but I'll manually update it for those of you who want to be in like actively this morning. It sounds like this is starting. Oh, a protest? Wait, what is this? What the fuck is this? No money to what? No money to Gaza? Wait, are these people for Gaza or against Gaza? Does anyone know what it says? There's no sound. Well, there's no mic they're not going to give the protesters a mic. I think they might be against Israel. I'm looking some stuff up right now.
Thousands of children now have been killed in Gaza, not to mention the injured. 35,000 killed, almost 70,000 injured, 17,000 orphans now the last 4 months. I'd love to see the classified documents of U.S. support for the
Don't take. I'm trying to figure out what this is about. What does this have to do with Biden's memory? Sorry about that. I just happen to be allergic to the little jungle cat that's right by me. Why are they letting all these people in for protests? I feel like we've been getting more of these. Like, if you just see people that look like crazy people, don't allow them in.
This is not Photoshop. These are children.
Whenever someone has to say it's not Photoshop, feels like it's probably Photoshop. All right, that's the all-time high on Bitcoin, 42,000. Whoops. 42,943. Do these people really think that the government's like, oh, that crazy Karen lady came in, we should listen to her, we're going to stop funding the war now? Is that what they think's going to happen? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Rum's coming back. Hell yeah, brother.
Why would you possibly send military support to Israel in the middle of a genocide?
Why? Karen's get shit done. No, 72K, not 42. 72, Brian.
Stop funding genocide. Stop funding inequality, the occupation, the apartheid against Palestinians. We will not be complicit in genocide.
Well, you're a tax-paying American, so yes, you are, honey.
We're talking about Gaza right now. And there's a fraction of the children that have been killed in Ukraine in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, a fraction of the children that have been killed in Gaza. There have been
Is that factually accurate?
3,000 orphans in Gaza right now in the last 4 or 5 months. Our country is responsible for funding it. Our tax money. Why are you taking money from AIPAC?
From what? AIPAC?
From AIPAC. This is funding genocide. Look at these pictures. These are
Can we just start this whole thing? I want to know about Biden's memory and the official report on it.
without anesthesia. Hospitals, schools, mosques.
All right. As I don't know, she's arguing Bitcoin's taken off. The 5-minute is getting back, so it went bearish and quickly recaptured it. The 10-minute went bearish, quickly recaptured it. The 30-minute fake out breakdown. Same on the Qs. A little bit weaker though as of now.
We welcome everyone to today's hearing on the report
Turn up the
of
volume.
Special Counsel Robert Hur. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the state of Wisconsin for the purpose of leading us in the pledge.
That's Reuters, so their volume's still going to be off. 5. CNN News 18, will they?
Pursuant to an agreement with the ranking member Nadler and without objection, Chairman Comer and ranking member Raskin will be permitted to participate in today's hearing
might have
for the
better.
purposes of making opening statements and for the purpose of leading us in the pledge.
Well, they're a little behind. Is that volume better? Volume check.
Committee will come to order. Without objection, the chair is
I
authorized
think
to
all the
declare
mics are
recess
just
at any time.
awkwardly low.
We welcome everyone to today's hearing on the report of Special Counsel Robert Hur. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from the state of Wisconsin.
Who might be a bit louder? Let's try CNN News 18. Oh, they literally have no volume. That's cool. No. That's what we want. We like it when there's no volume.
Mr. Biden willfully retained
Little bit more
classified documents about Afghanistan and handwritten notes in his notebooks, which he stored
8 minutes
in unsecure places
till I update the
in his
database.
home.
If you want to be in the Discord today
Joe
for
Biden
free,
kept classified
pinned to the
information,
top of chat.
and Joe Biden failed to store classified information properly. Mr. Hur made these determinations after interviewing 147 witnesses. He examined 7 million documents, including emails, text messages, photographs, videos, toll records, and other materials from both classified and unclassified sources. But there's more. Joe Biden not only kept information he wasn't allowed to keep, and he not only failed to secure that information properly, he also shared it with people who weren't allowed to see it. Shared that information with his ghostwriter. And remember, this is information that only individuals with a security clearance are supposed to see. Mr. Hur told us on page 200 of his report that it's the kind of information that, quote, risk serious damage to America's national security. And what did Joe Biden have to say about all this? What was his explanation? On page 94 of Mr. Hur's report, Joe Biden said he took his notebooks with him after his vice presidency because, quote, they're mine. and every president before me has done the same exact thing. Never mind the fact that he had never been president when he took this information, but what comes through is Joe Biden felt he was entitled. You can almost hear it. You can feel the arrogance in this statement. They're mine. But even with all that, Mr. Hur chose not to bring charges because, quote, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury as he did in our interview of him as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly
Bitcoin
man with a
new
poor
all-time high. Just tagged 73,000.
Who Mr. Hur said did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended, and forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term as vice president began. Mr. Hur produced a 345-page report, but in the end, it boils down to a few key facts. Joe Biden kept classified information. Joe Biden failed to properly secure classified information. And Joe Biden shared classified information with people he wasn't supposed to. Joe Biden broke the law. But because he's a forgetful old man who would appear sympathetic to a jury, Mr. Hur chose not to bring charges. Mr. Hur, we think it's important that you be able to respond to President Biden's response to your report. So we're going to play a short video of President Biden's press conference after your report was released, because there's things in this press conference that the President of the United States says that are directly contradicted by what you found in your report. So if we could play that video.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Let me say a few things before I take your questions. As you know, the special counsel released his findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president, and I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally
How bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No,
President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen?
It's not really answering the question,
I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr. President, you
cleared up criminal liability today. But do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the
judgment.
That
is your
They express
judgment.
concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your answer
Because
to
I'm the
that
most
question?
qualified person in this country to be president of the United States and finish the job I started.
Are you though?
Do you believe that, Mr. President, why are you
Are you though?
the names of world leaders?
Thank you, everyone.
2 minutes left till I update the database.
Classified information. I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter.
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
But the special counsel said
No, he did not say that. He did not say that.
But Mr. President,
Let me answer your question.
Very
The
combative.
fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said should be private, because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That's what he's referring to. It was not classified information in that document. That was not classified.
He called on me.
He called on me.
When you look
He
back at
picked
this
me.
incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in a way that, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up.
I don't even know how to
the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able.
I don't know how to go
It was in my house. It wasn't out in, like in Mar-a-Lago, in a public place where, and none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corner?
Red stuff.
None of that.
No, that
And
red
so
stuff.
I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and
Quick!
what I thought they were being
13
moved to the
seconds.
archives.
12
I thought
seconds.
all of
Go,
it
go,
was
go, go, go.
That's what I thought. Now, what was the
All
last
right,
part of your
I'm
question?
going to update the
Special counsel
database.
should have been appointed in this case and in
If
the
you
case
signed
of
up,
your
you'll be
rival
in like
former
10
president.
I
minutes.
think a
Hang
special
on.
counsel
Let me
should have
do
been
this.
appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law, period. Thank you all very, very much.
They're playing, this is an old clip, but they're playing it in a live testimony with the House right now. This is where he starts fighting with them more.
The hostage negotiation, look. I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in the Gaza Strip has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow.
Do you know how awkward that is? He means the
to get in.
president of Egypt, not Mexico. So in an argument about his losing his memory, he lost his memory.
In return for certain things that the United States would commit to do. And the commitment that we were proposing to do related to two items. I'm not going to go in detail, but one of them was to deal with the protection against their arch enemy to the northwest, northeast, I should say. The second one, by providing ammunition and material for them to defend themselves. Coincidentally, that's the time frame when this broke out. I have no proof what I'm about to say, but it's not unreasonable to suspect that the Hamas understood what was about to take place and wanted to break it up before it happened.
Database is updating as we speak right now.
We're going to need everybody to hold for a moment. Chair now recognizes the ranking member, Mr. Nadler, for an opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad you have such information, such admiration for the president that you allowed him to take the first 10 minutes of this hearing. Mr. Chairman, House Republicans may be desperate to convince America that white conservative men are on the losing end of a two-tiered justice system, a theory that appeals to the MAGA crowd but has no basis in reality. But your comments today make me wonder if you have read the special counsel's report at all. Her report does help us draw a distinction between President Biden and Donald Trump, just not the one you want. Two distinctions, actually. First, the report is clear that, quote, at no point did the special counsel find evidence that Mr. Biden intended or had reason to believe the information would be used to injure the United States or to benefit a foreign nation, close quote. With respect to the classified documents found in President Biden's possession, quote, the decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward, close quote. And with respect to the special counsel's investigation, quote, Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the Department of Justice. consented to the search of multiple locations, including his homes, sat for a voluntary interview, and in other ways cooperated with the investigation, close quote. President Biden acted responsibly, cooperated completely, and the decision to decline criminal charges was relatively straightforward. In short, to borrow a phrase from the last administration, the Hur report represents the complete and total exoneration of President Biden. And how does that record contrast with President Trump, the documents he retained, and the criminal charges pending against him in Florida? We know that Trump deliberately took large amounts of classified information from the White House. He has admitted as much, occasionally pretending that he classified this information without telling anyone on his way out the door. We know that he stored that information around Mar-a-Lago in the craziest of places, on the ballroom stage, spilled across the floor of an unlocked closet next to the toilet. We know that he showed classified military plans to an author interviewing him at Bedminster. Quote, "As president, I could have declassified it," Trump says on an audio recording. "Now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret." Still a secret, close quote. So much for the declassification theory. We know from the indictment that Trump is alleged to have shared these classified documents with many other visitors to Mar-a-Lago. And we know that, despite this outrageous conduct, the Department of Justice gave Trump every opportunity to avoid criminal charges. Again, in the special counsel's words, quote, "After being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. He not only refused to return the documents for many months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it," close quote. Why did the president charge former President Trump but not President Biden? Not because of some vast conspiracy, not because the so-called deep state was out to get him, but because former President Trump was fundamentally incapable of taking advantage of even one of the many, many chances he was given to avoid those charges. Which brings me to the second distinction this report helps us draw between President Biden and Donald Trump. Simply put, President Biden had the mental acuity to navigate this situation. Donald Trump did not. Much has been made of the special counsel's gratuitous comments about the President Biden's age. But let's set the context. After returning every classified document, after opening his home to federal investigators, while simultaneously managing the first hours of the crisis in Israel, President Biden volunteered to sit through a 5-hour interview with the special counsel. I believe, as is his habit, that President Biden probably committed a verbal slip or two during the interview. And I'm not sure any of that matters.
Options are going flat.
Because when the interview was over, Mr. Hur completely exonerated President Biden. And then there is Donald Trump. What kind of man bungles not one, but dozens of opportunities to avoid criminal liability? What must that say about his mental state?
Microsoft and
Here,
Amazon
too,
are picking up
the record
nicely.
speaks
So
for
is
itself.
Netflix. So is Tesla.
One of the great memories of
So
all
is
time.
Apple.
James Webb. I don't remember the names. Don't remember the name.
Viktor Orban. Did anyone ever hear of him? He's the leader of Turkey.
By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley is in charge of security.
3 years later, how about that?
Did you actually have a one-on-one with Comey then?
Not much, not even that I remember.
I like mosquitoes. We have languages coming into our country. We have nobody that even speaks those languages. They're truly foreign languages. Nobody speaks them. Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your... Oh.
I have a really good memory. Your next wife was a woman by the name of Marla Maples.
That's right.
Do you recall what years you were married to Ms. Maples?
It's called like Up Here, and it's called Memory, and it's called other things.
So you don't remember saying you have one of the best memories? I don't remember that.
And Putin, has so little respect for Obama that he's starting to throw around the nuclear word. You heard that, nuclear.
We have to win in November, or we're not going to have Pennsylvania. They'll change the name.
I talked to Putin.
A lot.
How much? I don't remember that. I saw that this morning. I don't remember asking him that question. I have a good memory and all that stuff, like a great memory. For 20 years, they were fighting ISIS. I defeated ISIS in 4 weeks, and we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. Them that cognitively. And you know what? When I am, you're going to know it. You're going to be the first people. I know my people. You'll say, all right, Trump, you did a good job. Get the hell out of here. That's it.
No more. Down with Pennsylvania.
That is a man who is incapable of avoiding criminal liability, a man who is wholly unfit for office, and a man who, at the very least, ought to think twice before accusing others.
Spyhead and intraday high Qs are about to.
Thank you for being here today, Mr. Hur. Thank you for illuminating a stark choice for this country in the months to come. I look forward to your testimony, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the chairman of the Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer, for an opening statement.
Thank you. In August 2022, President Biden questioned in a 60 Minutes interview how anyone can be that irresponsible when asked about classified documents in the possession of former President Trump.
Just hit a new intraday high. We're moving. We're grooving.
He knew
options
that
are picking up.
He had stashed classified materials in several unsecured locations for years, dating back to his time as vice president and even as a U.S. senator. President Biden, the White House, and his personal attorneys have not been honest with the American people about his willful retention of classified material and continue to hide information from Congress. President Biden's attorneys claim to have first discovered classified material at Penn Biden Center on November 2nd, 2022. However, President Biden and his lawyers kept it secret from the American people before the midterm elections. CBS News broke the story in January 2023, leaving Americans to wonder if the White House had any intention of ever disclosing that President Biden hoarded classified documents for years. One of my first actions after becoming chairman of the House Oversight Committee was to launch an investigation into President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. This investigation started
breakout right here. That was an easy buy at 10:22.
And what we found is alarming.
I did
information obtained through multiple transcribed
I just scalped that real quick right here.
The White House's and President Biden's personal attorney's
right here.
narrative.
I had 200
of classified documents.
Well, I got 100 and 100. 100 calls, 100 calls, average of 123. Just dumped them at 130. So up a nice 2.7K on this account.
Additionally, the classified
comeback of a lifetime
in a locked closet, as asserted by the White
By the way,
House.
I'm done scalping on that
We've also
account.
learned that 5 White House
I'm pushing my
employees
luck.
and a Department of Defense employee were involved in the early stages of coordinating the organizing, moving, and removing of boxes that were later found to contain classified materials. There's no reasonable explanation as to why so many White House employees were concerned with retrieving boxes they believed only contained personal documents and materials. Why did President Biden keep these specific documents in unsecure locations for years? Many questions remain, but now the White House is obstructing Congress as we seek the truth for the American people. We've subpoenaed former White House counsel Dana Remus to appear for a deposition to provide information to our committee, but the White House is seeking to block her testimony.
The
We've
White
also
House.
subpoenaed the Department of Justice for audio recordings and transcript of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Hur. These were due the morning of the State of the Union. Only this morning, a couple of hours before today's hearing, the Department of Justice finally provided the transcript of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Hur. The timing is not coincidental. Although we've had little time to review the transcripts, from what we have seen, it is clear that the White House did not want Special Counsel Hur's final report to be released. The White House has refused to be transparent with the American people about the president's mishandling of classified documents. And worse, they have appeared
This
to have
is so
lied
embarrassing for us as a country.
timeline, about who
These
handled
are
the
our two
documents,
options.
and even about the contents of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Hur. That is why today's hearing is important. Transparency is what we seek today, and we look forward to Special Counsel Hur's testimony. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, Mr. Raskin, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. There are just 3 basic points that all Americans need to understand about Mr. Hur's report. Number 1, the special counsel exonerates President Biden. The very first line of the report says it all. Quote, "We conclude that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter. We would reach the same conclusion even if Department of Justice policy did not foreclose criminal charges against a sitting president." Second, the report establishes that President Biden offered complete and unhesitating cooperation with the special counsel's investigation.
Market's still
Justice
pushing,
Department and the
looking
National
strong.
Archives were proactively notified of the classified documents, and they were turned over. The president allowed the FBI to search his homes, and he sat for a voluntary interview for more than 5 hours on October 8th and October 9th, even as he was busy responding to Hamas's vicious terrorist attack in Israel. The report thus demonstrates President Biden's complete devotion to the rule of law and his respect for a fair and independent Department of Justice. President Biden did not assert executive privilege or claim absolute immunity for presidential crimes. He did not hide boxes of documents under his bed or in a bathtub. He did not fight investigators, nor did he seek to redact a single word of Mr. Hur's report. He consented to the search of numerous locations, including his homes, and he did everything he could to cooperate, not obstruct. Third, Special Counsel Hur repeatedly emphasizes that President Biden's conduct contrasts sharply with that of former President Trump. Hur observes that unlike President Biden, quote,
Meta
the
is
allegations
actually
set
looking
forth
nice
in the
right
indictment
now.
of Mr. Trump, if proven, would clearly establish not only Mr. Trump's willfulness, but also serious aggravating factors. He sets forth these points of difference in detail. Quote, most notably after being given multiple chances to
I might get some
return
calls
classified
on
documents
Meta.
and avoid prosecution, Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it, unquote. He returned only a portion of subpoenaed documents
Nvidia's
and
looking good,
deliberately
too.
withheld the rest. Unlike President Biden, Trump did not alert the National Archives or
SMCI.
DOJ of the documents,
Tesla's
nor
looking
did he
weak.
turn over all the classified materials in his possession.
Rum's looking good too.
He did not agree to sit down for a voluntary interview with the special counsel.
I'm
He
really
never
liking how
consented to a search of his home.
Meta
On the
and Nvidia are
contrary,
looking.
Trump
2 red days,
suggested
potential
that
bounce
his
back.
attorney
2
hide
red
or
days,
destroy
potential bounce back.
evidence
I'm liking
requested
them.
by the FBI
I'm
and the
thinking
grand
about a
jury.
swing play.
Trump carefully instructed his aide to move boxes of classified documents to hide them from the FBI. Trump tried to delete incriminating security tape footage from Mar-a-Lago, and he got his attorney to provide a false certification to the FBI saying he had produced all the documents in his possession. He did not. Given that this report is so damning in the contrast between Biden and Trump, it is hard for me to see why our colleagues think that this hearing advances their flailing and embarrassing quest to impeach the President of the United States. What America sees today is evidence of one president who believes in the rule of law and works to protect it, and one who has nothing but contempt for the rule of law and acts solely in pursuit of his own constantly multiplying corrupt schemes. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witness. The Honorable Robert Hur was appointed as a special counsel in January 2023 to investigate the removal and retention of classified documents discovered at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement. He previously served as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice and as the United States Attorney for the District of Maryland. He was a law clerk for Chief Justice William Rehnquist and also clerked for Judge Alex Kaczynski on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We welcome our witness and thank him for appearing today. We will begin by swearing you in. Mr. Hur, would you please stand? Raise your right hand.
I just bought some Meta calls and
You swear or affirm under
Nvidia
penalty
calls,
of
swing
perjury, that
calls
the testimony you're about to give
for
is true
the
and
next couple
correct
days.
to the best of your knowledge, information, and beliefs, so help you God. Let the record reflect that the witness has answered in the affirmative. Thank you, and you can be seated. Please know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony. Mr. Hur, you may begin with your opening statement. Make sure you got that mic on, if you could, Mr. Hur. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, this is the guy who did the actual investigation.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Nadler, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, members of the committee, good morning. I'm privileged to have served our country for the majority of my career, a decade and a half, most of those years with the Department of Justice. I have served as a line prosecutor, a supervisor, the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General, a United States attorney, and a special counsel. I've served in these roles with gratitude as the son of immigrants to this country, the first member of my family to be born here. My parents grew up in Korea and were young children during the Korean War. My father remembers being hungry and grateful for the food that American GIs shared with him and his siblings. My mother fled what is now North Korea in her own mother's arms, heading south to safety. My parents eventually met, married, and came to the US, seeking a better life for themselves and for their children. Their lives and mine would have been very different were it not for this country. No matter the role, no matter the administration, I have applied the same standards and the same impartiality. My respect for the Justice Department and my commitment to this country are why I agreed to serve as special counsel when asked by the Attorney General. I resolved to do the work as I did all my work for the department, fairly, thoroughly, and professionally, with close attention to the policies and practices that govern department prosecutors. My team and I conducted a thorough, independent investigation. We identified evidence that the president willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. This evidence included an audio-recorded conversation during which Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter that he had, quote, just found all the classified stuff downstairs, end quote. When Mr. Biden said this, he was a private citizen speaking to his ghostwriter in his private rental home in Virginia. We also identified other recorded conversations during which Mr. Biden read classified information aloud to his ghostwriter. We did not, however, identify evidence that rose to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the evidence fell short of that standard, I declined to recommend criminal charges against Mr. Biden. The department's regulations required me to write a confidential report explaining my decision to the Attorney General. I understood that my explanation about this case had to include rigorous, detailed, and thorough analysis. In other words, I needed to show my work, just as I would expect any prosecutor to show his or her work explaining the decision to prosecute or not. The need to show my work was especially strong here. The Attorney General had appointed me to investigate the actions of the Attorney General's boss, the sitting President of the United States. I knew that for my decision to be credible, I could not simply announce that I recommended no criminal charges and leave it at that. I needed to explain why. My report reflects my best effort to explain why I declined to recommend charging President Biden. I analyzed the evidence as prosecutors routinely do, by assessing its strengths and weaknesses, including by anticipating the ways in which the president's defense lawyers might poke holes in the government's case, if there were a trial, and seek to persuade jurors that the government could not prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. There has been a lot of attention paid to language in the report about the president's memory, so let me say a few words about that. My task was to determine whether the president retained or disclosed national defense information willfully. That means knowingly and with the intent to do something the law forbids. I could not make that determination without assessing the president's state of mind. For that reason, I had to consider the president's memory and overall mental state and how a jury likely would perceive his memory and mental state in a criminal trial. These are the types of issues that prosecutors analyze every day. And because these issues were important to my ultimate decision, I had to include a discussion of them in my report to the Attorney General. The evidence and the president himself put his memory squarely at issue. We interviewed the president and asked him about his recorded statement, quote, I just found all the classified stuff downstairs, end quote. He told us that he didn't remember saying that to his ghostwriter. He also said he didn't remember finding any
You can tell
classified
this guy's a
material in his
no
home
fuck
after his
around
vice
guy.
presidency.
This guy's as serious
And
as
he
they
didn't
come.
remember anything about how classified documents about Afghanistan made their way into his garage.
Matt, please give Boulay a gold star. We'll explain
My
this later.
assessment in the
Thank you.
report about the
Boulay,
relevance of the
here's your
president's
gold
memory
star.
was necessary.
I grant you a gold
accurate,
star, Mr.
and
Boulay.
fair. Most importantly, what I wrote is what I believe the evidence shows, and and what I expect jurors would perceive and believe.
This guy's actually asleep in the
not
top left, and
sanitize
this is
my
also a
explanation,
no fuck around person.
Nor did I disparage
Even
the
more than
president
this no
unfairly.
fuck around
I
person.
explained to the Attorney General my decision and the reasons for it. That's what I was required to do. I took the same approach when I compared the evidence regarding President Biden to the department's allegations against former President Trump. There, too, I called it like I saw it. As a prosecutor, I had to consider relevant precedents and to explain why different facts justify different outcomes. That is what I did in my report. I'm confident the analysis set forth in chapters 11, 12, and 13 of my report provides a thorough evaluation and explanation of the evidence, and I encourage everyone to read it to inform their opinions of the report. Prosecutors rarely write public reports or testify about their investigations. That is the Justice Department's long-standing policy, and it protects important interests. My team and I prepared the report to the Attorney General with care, and the report stands as the primary source of information. My responses today will be limited to clarifying information for the committee. I will refrain from speculating or commenting on areas outside the scope of the investigation, nor will I discuss what investigative steps we did or did not take beyond what's in the report. In conclusion, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the attorneys, agents, analysts, and professional staff who helped us do our work fairly, thoroughly, and independently. I am grateful and privileged to have served with them. I single out for particular thanks Deputy Special Counsel Mark Crickbaum, a former United States attorney himself, who brought great wisdom, skill, and judgment to our task. Thank you. I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hur. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from North Dakota for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How could that possibly happen? How could anyone be that irresponsible? And I thought, what data was in there that could compromise sources, methods, and it's just totally irresponsible? As President Biden's statement about Donald Trump and the classified documents.
NVIDIA and Meta are still
classified documents
popping.
were found at the Penn Biden Center?
That's correct.
They were found in President Biden's garage?
In Wilmington, Delaware, yes.
And in his basement den?
Also in the same home, yes.
In the and his main floor office?
Correct.
And his third floor den?
Correct.
At the University of Delaware?
Correct.
And at the Biden Institute?
Correct.
And the elements of the crime for this, I mean, we get into all of this, but the elements of the crime are pretty simple, right? President Biden had unauthorized possession of a document, writing, or note. That's correct.
Correct.
And that the document, writing, or note related to national defense.
Correct.
And that the defendant, and we may talk about the willfully part here in a second, retained the document, writing, or note and failed to deliver it to an employee or officer entitled to receive it.
Correct. There is a willfulness intent element, as you say.
But those are the elements of the crime.
Including the intent element, yes.
Yeah. And there are at least two different quotes, right, where he told his ghostwriter, and this is in your report, in a matter of
bullish,
fact,
bullish, bullish,
February 16, 2017,
bullish,
that he had just found all this classified stuff downstairs.
He did make that statement that was captured on an audio recording.
And on April 10th, 2017,
Rum is looking good too.
Biden read aloud a classified passage related to a 2015 meeting in the Situation Room.
That is in the report, yes.
And these are national
Intraday high 749, breaking above the high on the 5th. If it gets above and closes above 750, next target 8 flat.
At one point in time, his personal attorneys and the DOJ attorneys argued about notes, taking all of the different things and compared it to Reagan.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Congressman?
President Biden's attorneys, personal attorneys, talked about the notes and why they didn't actually account for the Presidential Records Act. But you found that argument in your report. It seems a little persuasive, but you eventually said no, the executive order trumps, right?
We did set forth an analysis of
looking for Meta to hit 500, looking for NVIDIA to hit 900.
13526 does apply.
Why do Congress always look wasted AF? Good question.
You have audio recording from his
NVIDIA taking off. Once again, looking for 900, looking for 500 on Meta. Looking for Rum to ideally shoot all the way up to 8.
We have an audio recording capturing a statement from Mr. Biden saying to his ghostwriter in February of 2017, quote, "I just found all the classified stuff downstairs," end quote.
And then again, reciting passages from a meeting in the Situation Room.
Yes.
And those are in President Biden's own words.
Correct.
Right, so and the ghostwriter has no classified, he has no clearance, no classified clearance to anything, correct? correct?
That is our understanding, that Mr. Zwanitzer was not authorized to receive classified information.
Okay, so the elements are possessed documents, the documents related to national defense, and willfully retained those documents, and in this case, shared them with somebody who was not allowed to receive them.
There are different subsections of 18 U.S.C. 793. One subsection relates to the willful retention, and another relates to disclosure of national defense information.
Well, I mean, the willful retention, we've got the Penn Biden Center, the garage, the basement den, the main floor office, the third floor den, the University of Delaware, and the Biden Institute. We have a 50-year career of a person who has not been very great at dealing with classified documents throughout, even prior to his time as vice president, when he was in the U.S. Senate, right?
We do address each set of those documents in the report, Congressman.
So the difference, but I think this is really important because the difference is it appears just from reading the report, he has, and we heard all about exonerated and all of those different things. It appears from the report he met every actual element of the crime. So I want to talk about the department principles on federal prosecution, because that actually has nothing to do with the underlying elements, correct? It's whether or not you can prove this at trial.
Under the department's justice manual and the principles of federal prosecution, a prosecutor has to assess the evidence and determine whether, in his or her judgment, the probable outcome will be a conviction at trial.
So whether or not you meet the elements of the crime, which I think it's clear that he does, the second part of this is this, and that's where it gets into the sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. You could have just said we don't prosecute sitting presidents, but you did not. And you enter this, but that doesn't have anything to do with the actual elements of the crime. That has to do with getting a conviction at trial, correct?
Well, Congressman, part and parcel of a prosecutor's judgment as to whether or not a conviction is the probable outcome of trial is assessing how the evidence identified during the investigation lines up with the elements and what proof can be offered to a jury during a trial.
Sure, but his well-meaning elderly old man has nothing to do with the underlying elements of the crime.
Well, it certainly has
it's a
something.
Presentation to the jury.
It certainly has something.
Back. Gentleman can respond.
It certainly has something to do with the way that a jury is going to perceive and receive and consider and make conclusions based on evidence at trial, Congressman.
Time the gentleman's
We're going.
expired. The chair now
We're
recognizes the
ripping
ranking
today.
member of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. Nadler.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hur, in your written testimony, you say that you found some evidence that the president might have willfully retained classified materials at the end of his vice presidency, correct?
Correct.
But ultimately, you concluded that you could not prove that charge in a court of law. In your words, you, quote, did not identify evidence that rose to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, close quote, correct?
That was my judgment.
You have been a prosecutor for a long time, Mr. Hur. Would you agree that there's no such thing as being a little bit charged for a crime? You're either charged or you're not, correct?
Fair question.
Could you please repeat the question, Congressman?
Would you agree that there's no such thing as being a little bit charged for a crime? You're either charged or you are not charged, correct?
Yes, it is binary. Either one is not
Thank
charged
you.
or charged.
So just to be clear, because so many people have taken your words out of context, your ultimate conclusion was that President Biden could not be charged with a crime because even after your thorough investigation, you could not find sufficient evidence to charge him, correct?
My conclusion was that based on my evaluation of the evidence as a prosecutor...
Don't feel about it, correct?
I'm sorry, Congressman, I didn't hear your last question.
I said based on your conclusion, your ultimate conclusion is that President Biden could not be charged with a crime because even after your thorough investigation, you could not find sufficient evidence to charge him. Correct or not correct?
My ultimate conclusion was that criminal charges were not warranted.
Correct. Now let's talk about why. I have limited time, so please, when I say correct or not correct, answer the question. Now let's talk about why, in sharp contrast to President Biden, President Trump faces 40 charges related to the unlawful retention of highly classified documents. That is, of course, apart from the additional 51 counts in cases
Mr. Nadler doesn't fuck
that he
around.
incited a rebellion and lied about his finances. You found that President Biden reported the possible classified documents in his possession to the FBI as soon as he learned of them, correct?
There was a voluntary disclosure by the President's counsel to authorities relating to the discovery of classified documents at the Penn Biden.
Let's contrast this with President Trump. Are you aware that the FBI only learned that Trump was in possession of classified material after the National Archives discovered them?
Congressman, I am not intimately familiar with the facts relating to former President Trump. I'm prepared to comment on them to the extent that I address them in the report.
You write in your report that President Biden, quote, would not have handed the government classified documents from his own home on a silver platter if he had willfully retained those documents for years, close quote. In other words, part of understanding President Biden's intent was that he quickly and voluntarily returned those documents to the government, correct?
That was a factor in our analysis, yes.
Thank you. By way of contrast, to the best of your knowledge, why did the Department of Justice seek a warrant to search Mar-a-Lago?
Congressman, I am not familiar with those deliberations. That is a matter that I had no participation
Well,
in.
I'll tell you, it was because they were concerned that Trump had lied about possession of those documents and might conceal or destroy them. Special Counsel Smith found that President Trump obstructed his investigation by suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that Trump
NVIDIA
did
going
not
to
have the
900,
documents called for by the grand
Meta going to
jury
500.
subpoena.
Those swing
At any
calls
point in
are
your
already looking
investigation,
good.
did you have any
Up
reason
about
to
a
believe that
grand.
President Biden lied to you?
I do address in my report one response that the President gave to a question that we had posed to him that we deemed to be not credible.
Was it clear he didn't lie?
I'm sorry, Congressman.
The report is clear that he didn't lie, or that he caused his staff to lie to you, and that he didn't cause his staff to lie to you. Your report is clear on that. Do you agree that causing someone to lie to the FBI is a classic example of obstruction of justice?
It is an example of obstruction, yes.
Thank you. Trump also obstructed the Smith investigation by directing one of his employees to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, from the FBI, and from the grand jury. At any point in your investigation, did you find that President Biden directed his staff to conceal documents from you or anyone else?
We did not reach that
Okay.
conclusion.
You would agree that hiding documents is a classic example of obstructing an investigation?
It is an example of obstruction.
Thank you. Donald Trump instructed his staff to delete security footage so that the FBI and special counsel could not see how he had tried to move and hide documents. Do you agree that attempting to delete video footage in this manner is plainly an attempt to obstruct an investigation?
Congressman, I don't want to characterize the evidence in the case against former
But
President.
if that happened, would you agree that deleting video footage is plainly an attempt to obstruct an investigation?
Meta taking out
Congressman, it's the
500.
type of evidence that prosecutors would
Okay.
consider.
To sum up, Donald Trump is charged with willfully retaining classified documents and conspiring to conceal those documents, and he's facing additional charges for lying to investigators. Isn't that correct?
Those are allegations that are in a pending
Matter of
indictment
public
against
record.
former President Trump.
And the reason why President Biden is not facing a single charge, Mr. Herr, is not because you went easy on him, but because after reviewing 7 million documents and interviewing nearly 150 witnesses, including the president himself, you could not prove that he had committed a crime. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from, Mr. McClintock, gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Herr. I first want to get this straight. Is it now okay if I take home top secret documents,
Yes.
store them in my garage, and read
100%.
portions of them to friends or
NVIDIA
associates?
just hit 900 ripping.
Congressman, I
Meta
wouldn't recommend
hit
it, but I don't want to
500 and
entertain any
ripping.
hypotheticals at this
Was
point.
it okay? I mean, I can do that now under this new doctrine?
Again, Congressman, I wouldn't recommend that you do that, but
Well,
I don't wanna-
you've essentially said so in your report, and certainly it would be exculpatory if I simply told you, hey, I'm getting old, I don't remember stuff the way I used to.
Congressman, I'm not here to get into hypotheticals. I'm here to talk about the facts and the work that I did in
It's not a hypothetical, this is the issue at hand. You correctly noted in your report that former presidents and other senior officials have been given wide latitude in their possession of classified information, and I believe your decision not to prosecute Biden for the same offense is consistent with that precedent. But the problem is that precedent changed with the administration's decision to prosecute Donald Trump. And the irony is that as president, Trump had full discretion over handling classified material and full discretion in deciding which records to retain. As a senator or vice president, Joe Biden didn't have that. So now we get to this glaring double standard. I think it would be toxic to the rule of law on its face if it was just two ordinary citizens. But the fact that the only person being prosecuted for this offense happens to be the president's political opponent makes this an unprecedented assault on our democracy. This is the worst we could expect from a banana republic. And I wonder how you square this.
Congressman, I do address, as I was required to as a prosecutor, a relevant precedent in the form of the allegations in the indictment against former President Trump. I set forth my explanation and my assessment and comparison of those precedents in my report, and I am not here to comment any further beyond what's in my report.
You said, for example, that there was no evidence beyond reasonable doubt. Well, you got the fact that he had classified material in his possession and control in multiple settings for multiple years, that he told others he was aware of this, and that he shared that material with others. The mind boggles at what beyond reasonable doubt would actually mean.
Well, as I set forth at length in my explanations in chapters 11 and 12 of the report, my assessment is that the evidence, if presented at trial alongside potential defense arguments, would not probably result in a conviction at trial.
Well, that's one of the points you make, is that President Biden's likely to be an elderly, sympathetic figure with a poor memory. But how does that bear on any individual's guilt or innocence? Isn't that, again, a question for a judge or jury to decide after guilt or innocence is determined?
It is.
And again, here's the problem. Donald Trump's being prosecuted for exactly the same act that you've documented that Joe Biden committed.
Congressman, if I understood your question correctly, you said, isn't that a question for a jury? And it most certainly, through the lens of
my question is, does that bear on the guilt or innocence of an individual?
It certainly bears on how a jury is going to receive and perceive and make decisions.
So the answer to my earlier question is correct. All I have to do when I'm caught taking home classified materials to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Herbert, but I'm getting old. My memory's not so great.
Yeah. Congressman,
this is the doctrine that you've established in our laws now, and it's frightening.
Congressman, my intent is certainly not to establish any sort of doctrine. I had a particular task. I have a particular set of evidence to consider and make a judgment.
I have a particular set of skills. I will find you.
Well, Mr. Herr, here's the fine point of the matter. The foundation of our justice system is equal justice under law. That's what gives the law its respect and its legitimacy. And without it, the law is simply force, devoid of any moral authority. Justice is depicted as blindfolded for this very reason. It doesn't matter who comes before her. All are treated equally. You destroy this foundation, and the rule of law becomes a sick mockery. It becomes a weapon to wield against political rivals and a tool of despotism. And I am desperately afraid.
Despotism? What does that mean?
This decision of the Department of Justice is now crossed a very bright line. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Chairman, I ask for unanimous consent to introduce the State of the Union as into the hearing.
Without objection, that'll be introduced. The ranking member is recognized for unanimous consent.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent that a copy of an article in this morning's Washington Post entitled "Full Transcript of Biden's Special Counsel Interview Paints Nuanced Portrait. The President doesn't come across as absent-minded as Herr has made him out to be."
Without objection.
Thank you.
Chair now recognizes the gentlelady from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you,
Who is this?
Mr. Herr, for being here today.
Hey, Matt Gates
I found
is here.
your report very interesting, and I learned some things about it. The law and the precedents. There are clear differences between the cases of and precedents
She's just learning
set
this
by
now?
Presidents Reagan,
Ms. Lofgren,
Trump,
come on,
and
babe.
Biden. Now, it was widely known that President Reagan kept diaries from his presidency that included classified information. What I didn't know and learned in your report was that the Department of Justice, quote, repeatedly described the diaries in public court filings as Mr. Reagan's personal records, unquote, and that no agency ever attempted to remove his diaries. That's on page 195 of your report. Very interesting. So the investigation found that President Biden believed that his notebooks were his personal property, including work and political notes, reflections, to-do lists, and more that he was entitled to take home. You found that on page 232. So while much of his notebook was work-related, he still had some purely personal subjects like, again, I quote, gut-wrenching entities about the illness and death of his son, Beau, and that's on page 82 and 253 of your report. So it's clear, based on the Reagan precedent, that no criminal charges were warranted in this matter relative to personal notebooks. Now, I want to be clear that although the notebooks contain some very personal information and President Biden considered them his personal property, the president allowed your team to seize and review all of the notebooks you found. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, that's in stark contrast to ex-President Trump's case. He obstructed and diverted all the investigations. Now, you also interviewed President Biden about other classified documents you found outside his notebooks, didn't you?
Yes, Congresswoman.
So did the president tell you that he believed any documents other than his own handwritten work were his personal property? Yes or no?
We did not hear that from the president during his interview.
So again, it's very different from ex-President Trump. Ex-President Trump said all of the documents marked classified were his personal property. President Biden did not consider documents that were produced by other entities with classification markings as his personal records. Now, I think, since the majority has tried to assert that there is a disparity based on politics in the differences in the prosecution, it's worth quoting page 11 of the report, which says, and I quote, "Several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's case are clear. Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, but he also obstructed justice
Text
by
turning a
enlisting
little bit.
others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it." That's on page 11. Quote, "In contrast,
Med is taking a bit of a hit, dragging the cues, thus dragging the spy in the very short
and the
term.
Department of Justice consented to the search of multiple locations, including his
Options
homes,
are starting
sat
to
for a
dive,
voluntary interview,
starting at
and in other
10:54.
ways cooperated with the investigation. It's
Diving
clear
hard.
that these cases are not the same.
Calls
And
being
frankly,
locked
I
in.
was
People are taking their
surprised to
profit on
learn
calls.
that some of the
Some puts being bought as well.
classified documents were actually personal diaries that many executive officials have taken home with them because it was in their own handwriting, it was what they produced. And based on the Department of Justice public statements during the Reagan administration, it is understandable that a person could believe that their personal diaries that they produced were not to be turned over, just as President Reagan did not turn them over. So I appreciate your report. I appreciate your being here, Mr. Herr. And I would also like to ask, Mr. Chairman, a unanimous request to include in the record a September 11th letter from the Special Counsel to the President to Special Counsel Herr, and also a letter to Merrick Garland.
Without objection.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, I see my time has
Bitcoin
expired,
falling
and
a
I
little bit,
yield
71.5,
back.
after
yields
tagging
back. The
in
chair is
new
recognized.
all-time
Mr.
high,
Herr, why
just
did
above
you do it?
73.
Why did Joe Biden, in your words, willfully retain and disclose classified materials? I mean, he knew the law. Been in office like 50 years. 5 decades in the United States Senate, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, 8 years as vice president. He got briefed every day as vice president. He's been in the Situation Room. In fact, you know he knew the rules because you said so on page 226. President Biden was deeply familiar with the measures taken to safeguard classified documents. And Joe Biden told us he knew the rules. Mr. Armstrong said this earlier. Joe Biden was deeply familiar with it. You're exactly right, because he told us when Jack Smith goes after President Trump, Joe Biden says, how could this happen? What data was in those documents that could compromise sources and methods? It's irresponsible. So Joe Biden knew the rules. You know he knew the rules. And Joe Biden told us he knew the rules. So, Mr. Herr, why did he break them?
Why did he break?
Congressman, the conclusion as to exactly why the president did what he did is not one that we explicitly address in the report. The report explains my decision to the Attorney General that no criminal charges were warranted in this matter.
I think you did tell us. I think you told us, Mr. Herr. Page 231, you said this. President Biden had strong motivations. That's a key word. We're getting to motive now. President Biden had strong motivations to ignore the proper procedures for safeguarding the classified information in his notebooks. Why did he have strong motivations? Because, next word, because he decided months before leaving office to write a book. To write a book, that was his motive. He knew the rules, he broke them because he was writing a book. And you further say, and he began meeting with the ghostwriter while he was still vice president. There's the motive. Mr. Herr, how much did President Biden get paid for his book?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if that information appears in the report.
Sure does. There's a dollar amount in there. You remember?
I don't, it may be $8 million if that's
$8
accurate.
million. Joe Biden had 8 million reasons to break the rules. Took classified information and shared it with the guy who was writing the book. That's why he did. He knew the rules, but he broke them for $8 million in a book advance. But you know what? It wasn't just the money. Joe Biden, here's this page 231, very next page. Joe Biden, in your report, Joe Biden viewed his notebooks
NVIDIA
as an
popping back.
irreplaceable, contemporaneous
Bitcoin already
record of the most
bouncing
important
back
moments
after
of
this
his
little
vice
vomit.
presidency. He'd written this all down for the book, for the $8 million. And the next thing you say in your report is, quote, such a record would buttress his legacy as a world leader. You know what this is? It wasn't just the money. It wasn't just $8 million. It was also his ego. Pride and money is why he knowingly violated the rules. The oldest motives in the book, pride and money. You agree with that, Mr. Herr? You wrote it in your report.
That language, and it does appear in the report, and we did identify evidence supporting those assessments.
You also had another interesting statement in your report. You said Joe Biden, I want to make sure I get this right, viewed himself as a man of presidential timber. Remember that statement, Mr. Herr?
I believe that does appear in the report, at least in the executive summary.
Presidential timber. Me too.
I think this is interesting because here's the scary part. Page 200. I said this earlier in my opening statement. Page 200. Joe Biden, this is a quote, Joe Biden risked serious damage to America's national security when he shared information with his ghostwriter. Shared it with his ghostwriter, the guy who was helping Joe Biden get $8 million.
I liked it better when they were
by
playing
the way,
clips.
Mr. Herr, what did that ghostwriter do with the information Joe Biden shared with him on his laptop? What did he do after you were named special counsel?
Chairman, if you're referring to the audio recordings that Mr. Zwanitzer created of his conversations with
Exactly what I'm referring to.
Rum? Alert on
slid,
rum.
If I remember correctly, he slid those files.
Rum's
into
popping.
his,
Here's your
recycled
official rum alert.
Tried to destroy the evidence, didn't he?
Rum.
Very guy who was helping Joe Biden get the $8 million. The $8 million Joe Biden had used the motive
Next
for Joe
target,
Biden
8.
to disclose classified information, to retain classified information, which he definitely knew was against the law. When you get named special counsel, what's that guy do? He destroys the evidence.
Looking for a push to 8.
That's the key takeaway in my mind. That's the key takeaway. I yield back.
Actually, a nice technical breakout, too.
Gentleman from Maryland for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
Nice
Chairman.
technical breakout.
Mr. Herr, your report starts with the line, we conclude that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter.
Bullish
have you had
wedge
any
breakout.
reason to change your opinion
Targeting
about that?
8, targeting 836, easy peasy
You
lemon
highlight the
squeezies.
independence and support you got from the Attorney General and DOJ. Have you changed your mind about that?
I have not.
The report describes President Biden's cooperation in your requests. He allowed his homes to be searched. He answered questions for hours in the midst of a global crisis. Have you had any reason to change your mind about that?
No, Ranking Member.
All right. You also repeatedly contrast Biden's cooperation with the conduct of Donald Trump. You say, quote, most notably after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. Have you any reason to change your judgment about the differences between President Biden's cooperation and the former president's non-cooperation?
No, I continue to stand by those words in my report.
With such a striking contrast, our colleagues have switched over from being impeachment investigators for constitutional high crimes and misdemeanors, which is how this whole thing started, to being amateur memory specialists, giving us their drive-by diagnoses of the President of the United States, whose soaring oratory, powerful historical analysis, and devastating extemporaneous repartee with even the most skilled ninja hecklers of the Freedom Caucus were on full display at the State of the Union
What's the deal
address
with this
last
guy's
week
hair?
for the whole country to see. The desperate quest to invent an issue is a distraction
Dude,
from the
Rum is
91 federal and
ripping
state
right now.
federal charges that Donald Trump faces now. His staggering civil court losses in New York, now totaling more than $500 million, and his full-blown embrace and romance with authoritarian dictators and communist tyrants all over the world, from Viktor Orban in Hungary to Vladimir Putin in Russia, the former head of the KGB, to the communist dictator of North Korea. It's not, this, my friends, this is a memory test. But it's not a memory test for President Biden. It's a memory test for all of America. Do we remember fascism? Do we remember Nazism? Do we remember communism and totalitarianism? Have we completely forgotten the sacrifices of our parents and grandparents and prior generations? While we play pin the tail on the donkey in this wild goose chase, all of these silly games, Donald Trump entertains authoritarian hustler Viktor Orban at Mar-a-Lago for the weekend, and Orban comes out to declare that if we indeed sleepwalk into another Trump presidency, Trump will, quote, not give a single penny to Ukraine. That's what all of this is about. It's about trying to pull the wool over the eyes of America, because the tyrants and dictators of the world are on the march today. So who wins with this ludicrous, embarrassing spectacle? Orban wins, Putin wins, Xi wins, the tyrants of the world win. They have one more reason to celebrate Donald Trump and his cult followers, who've completely lost their way. They're looking for high crimes and misdemeanors. Now they appoint themselves amateur memory specialists, and that's what they counsel the President of the United States about.
As well.
America faces a choice between democracy and tyranny. And the president laid it out at Valley Forge, and he laid it out in the State of the Union. Will America stand on the side of people struggling against fascist aggression? Will we stand with the people of Ukraine against Vladimir Putin, whose filthy war has meant the kidnapping of thousands of Ukrainian children, the murder, the slaughter of thousands of Ukrainian civilians, and the attack on an independent sovereign democracy? But we're not working on that today. We're not standing up for democracy and human rights and international law around the world. No, we're trying to play memory detectives, to parse the language of a president who the whole world got to see at the State of the Union address directly address the real questions of our time. And it is democracy versus dictatorship. And all of the autocrats and the theocrats, all of the kleptocrats of the world are together in league
That's a lot of
against
crats.
American democracy, and we have to stand up for American democracy against these stupid games. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. The chairman of the Oversight Committee, Mr. Comer, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the Oversight Committee interviews, we've identified a number of White House employees who were involved in the mishandling of classified documents under the leadership of President Biden. Special Counsel Hurd, can you please tell us approximately how many current and former White House employees you interviewed related to your investigation?
Chairman Comer, I don't have that figure immediately at hand. Of course, it was a subset of the 173 interviews that we conducted during our investigation.
Your report indicates that one of those former White House employees who you interviewed was Dana Remus. Is that correct?
We did interview Ms. Remus.
Ms. Remus was President Biden's former White House counsel, correct?
She was President Obama's former White House counsel.
I'm sorry, President Obama's White House counsel. Yes. Related to Ms. Remus, in your report on page 257, you wrote, in May 2022, White House counsel Dana Remus undertook an effort to retrieve Mr. Biden's files from the Penn Biden Center. Remus described the original purpose of that effort as gathering materials to prepare for potential congressional inquiries about the Biden family's activities during the period from 2017 to 2019. Now, it seems odd to me that Dana Remus and Joe Biden's personal lawyers were obtaining documents related to potential congressional inquiries about the Biden family activities when Joe Biden has publicly claimed he had no involvement with his family's business dealings. Can you provide more information about why Dana Remus, a government employee, was retrieving Joe Biden's documents from the Penn Biden Center?
Chairman, I am able to tell you and clarify information that appears in the report about relevant, significant sources of information, but I am not in a position to be able to go beyond that.
When you interviewed President Biden, did you ask him what documents he possessed at Penn Biden Center that could be related to a potential congressional inquiry about his family's activities?
We asked President Biden a wealth of questions about all of the different sets of classified materials that were recovered during the course of our investigation.
Did anything pertain specifically to our congressional inquiry of President Biden that you recall?
If there are more specific aspects of it that you have in mind, Chairman, that would be helpful to me.
Interest pertaining to his family's influence peddling activities?
If it's helpful, Chairman, Appendix A does list in table chart form a brief description of all of the marked classified documents that were recovered in our investigation.
We intend to interview Ms. Remus, and the recording or transcript of your interview would be highly relevant to our future questioning of her. Can you confirm that you did, in fact, record her in your interview?
It was our practice to record the interviews that we conducted, Chairman Comer.
Additionally, in the course of the investigation, the Oversight Committee learned from a Penn Biden Center employee that Annie Tomasini, a White House employee, visited the Penn Biden
He's really
Center in
saying
2020.
a White House.
Did you interview
a White House
Annie,
employee,
Tomasini, in the course of your investigation?
Chairman, we do not, the report does not reflect that specific name, but what I can tell you is that the report does reflect that we interviewed the Director of Oval Office Operations, and one of the places that's reflected is footnote 973.
Okay. The Oversight Committee interviewed Kathy Chung, a Department of Defense employee and former assistant to Vice President Biden, and learned that Ms. Chung visited the Biden Penn Center in June 2022 after being contacted by White House counsel in May 2022. Counsel. This was months before classified documents were allegedly found in November 2022. Did you interview Kathy Chung in the course of your investigation?
Chairman, I believe that the substance relating to the subject you're asking about appears on page 259 of the report. And while the name Kathy Chung does not appear in the text of the report, there are references to interviews of an executive assistant, including at footnote 988.
Good. The Oversight Committee also learned from its interviews with Penn Biden Center employees and Kathy Chung that Dana Remus, Anthony Bernal, and Ashley Williams, all at the time White House employees, then visited the Penn Biden Center on different occasions before the alleged discovery of classified materials in November 2022. Did you interview these individuals during your investigation?
We interviewed many individuals, and I can assure you, Chairman, that it was a priority of ours to interview all the relevant sources of information about these documents, how they got there, who knew about them, and who accessed them.
Can you, so
options
again,
volatile,
they
but
were all
overall
recorded,
picking
is that
up
correct?
still.
So there would be recordings.
It was our practice to interview recordings, yes, sir.
How many White House employees visited the Penn Biden Center before classified materials were reportedly discovered there in November 2022?
I don't have
according to the White House.
Sir, I don't have an exact count of.
How many visits to the Penn Biden Center were made by either White House employees or President Biden's personal attorneys before the official discovery of documents in November 2022?
I don't have that figure at hand, but that should be detailed in Chapter 14 of the report, sir.
Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes. Before, Mr. Hur, anytime you need a break, just if you need a break, let us know, because we're going to go a while, as you well know.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Jackson Lee is recognized.
New intraday high. Fill my trade, fill my trade, fill my trade.
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
The Republicans here asked for a lot of transcripts, but Chair Jordan has yet to release 90-plus transcripts from our interviews with those, if they are to be released to the American people, is the question. My question to you is, you decided, based on the facts, not to prosecute or indict or bring forward charges against the President of the United States, the sitting President, Joseph Biden. Is that correct?
That was my judgment.
This investigation was independent and thorough. Is that correct?
Yes.
We have heard from our Republican colleagues who are grasping at straws allegations that President Biden was treated lightly in this investigation. But just a plain reading of this report completely refutes that argument. There was no two-tiered system of justice. There was only a lack of evidence against President Biden. Mr. Hur, your office and the FBI undertook an extensive investigation into Mr. Biden's handling of classified information and of the classified documents the FBI seized, correct?
Correct.
In your investigation, you conducted 173 interviews of 147 witnesses, correct?
That is correct.
And President Biden himself was one of those witnesses, correct?
Correct.
For at least 5 hours.
NVIDIA's going again.
Correct.
And President Biden engaged in this interview voluntarily.
Correct.
And the interview with President Biden lasted more than 5 hours. I've said that. That's correct?
Correct.
And the interview, and it occurred the day, which all should know, after the horrific attack, October 7th, 2023, Hamas attack in Israel, according to a letter from the White House counsel. Is that correct?
The interview spans 2 days, October 8th and October 9th.
With the president having to be in and out to deal with an international crisis, and after the interview, he provided handwritten answers to additional questions, correct?
Congresswoman, I don't recall the president being in and out during our interview to handle the internet.
Let me go on. And President Biden allowed investigators to search his private houses. Is that correct?
He did consent to the search of his residence.
And your investigation collected 7 million documents for review in your investigation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this included emails, text messages, photographs, videos, toll records, and other materials from both classified and unclassified sources.
Correct.
Correct? And you referred or reviewed President Biden's handwritten notes as well, correct?
Correct.
And you coordinated with the multiple government agencies to organize and complete your investigation, correct?
We consulted with numerous agencies to conduct
And that
classification reviews of evidence that was seized during the investigation.
Right. And that included working with national security experts in the intelligence community to carefully analyze each classified document that was obtained.
With respect to marked classified documents, that's correct. We submitted excerpts from the former Vice President's notebooks for classification review.
And if agencies reviewed classified material and gave it different levels of classification, you classified it as a higher level for the purposes of your investigation, to be thorough, correct?
That is reflected in appendices A and
Thank
B.
you. The FBI requested classification review from each identified agency accordingly for documents where multiple agencies had equities. The special counsel's office used the highest level of classification identified by an agency as the current classification of the document. Let me go on. Attorney General Garland appointed you as special counsel over the matter on January 12, 2023, correct?
Correct.
He authorized you to investigate Mr. Biden's possession of the classified documents, including possible unauthorized removal and retention of classified documents or other records.
Correct.
As, at the Penn Biden Center, President Biden's home, Delaware, as well as any matters that arose from the initial investigation or may arise directly from the special counsel investigation. Is that correct?
I believe that accurately reflects the language of the appointment order.
So you operated an independent investigation for about a year, which you just stated that you had adequate resources to complete, in which you conducted 173 interviews, included with President Biden himself. You reviewed 7 million documents, including President Biden's personal records, and searched his home thoroughly. And in this thorough, lengthy investigation, you did not uncover enough evidence to recommend prosecution against the president. Is that correct?
That's my judgment.
And if you had found enough evidence to warrant prosecution, did you feel free, unrestrained by the Attorney General appointed by President Biden to make such a recommendation to the Attorney General?
I was aware of the Office of Legal Counsel policy right now, prohibiting sitting presidents from being charged with federal crimes. But apart from that, what I can tell you, Congresswoman, is that the investigative steps that we took were my own, the judgment was my own, and the words in the report are my own.
And you would have done so.
Regular order, Mr.
The time of
Chairman.
the gentlelady has
Would have done so.
expired.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put into the record justsecurity.org, the real Robert Hura report, as unanimous consent.
Without objection. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Florida for 5 minutes.
February 8th, the White House. Question, Mr. President, why did you share classified information with your ghostwriter? The President, I did not share classified information. I did not share it. I guarantee I did not. That's not true, is it, Mr. Hur?
That is inconsistent with the findings based on the evidence in my report.
Yes, it's a lie. It's just what regular people would say, right? Yeah, all right. So the next one. All the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. That wasn't true either, was it?
That was inconsistent with the findings of our investigation.
Another lie.
We got a
say,
jumper.
right? Because what you put in your report was among the places Mr. Biden's lawyers found classified documents in the garage was a damaged open box. So here's what I'm understanding, right? As Mr. Armstrong laid out, you find in your report that the elements of a federal criminal violation are met, but then you apply this senile cooperator theory that because Joe Biden cooperated and the elevator doesn't go to the top floor, you don't think you get a conviction. And I actually think
go to the top
you get to the right answer in that. I don't think Biden should have been charged. Don't think Trump should have been charged. But under the senile cooperator theory, isn't it frustrating that Biden continues to go out and lie
new intraday high
about the basic facts of the report that lay out a federal criminal violation?
Congressman, I need to disagree with at least one thing that you said, which is that I found that all of the elements were met. One of the elements of the relevant mishandling statute is the intent element, and what my report reflects is my judgment that based on the evidence, I would not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury that that intent element had been met.
Right, but the reason you have that doubt is the senile cooperator theory. The fact that Joe Biden is so inept in responding that you can't prove the intent, which again, I don't quibble with that conclusion, but it's frustrating to be like, oh, well, this guy's not getting treated the same way as Trump because the elevator's not going to the top floor, so we can't prove intent.
He loves saying
At the
that.
same time, Biden goes out there at the White House and says, well, you know, he just blatantly lies. And what I'm trying to figure out is whether or not Biden's lying because he's still so senile, he hasn't read your report, or whether it's a little craftier and a little more devious and perhaps a little more intentional than we might otherwise think. So I also want to go to this Biden Penn Center. Like, did it give concern to you that the Biden Penn Center, where all this classified stuff was being mishandled, was being floated by foreign governments?
Congressman, we were concerned with getting to the bottom of all of the classified documents that were recovered during the course of our...
Yeah, but what bothers me is that the money that was paying for the place where the documents were being inappropriately held, it was the Chinese and it was other foreign countries. Did that play into your analysis? Did you look into the $1 billion in foreign funding sources at the Biden Center at UPenn, for example?
Congressman, we conducted a thorough, impartial, and fair investigation, and we were very, very concerned with getting to the bottom of all the relevant questions relating to the recovered documents.
Did you look into the fact that the Chinese were floating the place where this guy was keeping the documents unsecure? Yes or no?
Congressman, to the extent that we identified evidence that was relevant and significant to our investigation, we put it in our report.
Okay, well, it seemed relevant to me, maybe not to you. Another thing that seemed relevant to me is this ghostwriter, right? So the ghostwriter purposefully deletes this evidence that seems to be show culpability of Biden's crimes, and you don't charge him. Why did you not charge the ghostwriter with obstructing justice and deleting evidence?
Well, for a number of reasons that are laid out in the report, but in brief, Congressman, yes, when we interviewed the ghostwriter, he did tell us, and I'm trying to get the exact language, that one of the things on his mind, one of the things he was aware of, was that I had been appointed special counsel and was conducting an investigation.
Right, so he didn't, just so everybody knows, the ghostwriter didn't delete the recordings just as a matter of happenstance. Ghostwriter has recordings of Biden making admissions of crimes. He then learns that you've been appointed. He then deletes the information that is the evidence, and you don't charge him.
That is reflected in the report, and one of the reasons...
What does somebody have to do to get charged with obstruction of justice by you? If deleting the evidence of crimes doesn't count, what would meet the standard?
So, Congressman, as we state in the relevant chapter of the report, one of the things that Mr. Zwanitzer did not delete was transcripts of the recordings that he had created that included inculpatory evidence relating to Mr. Biden.
Oh, so if you destroy some evidence but not other evidence, that somehow absolves you of the evidence you destroy? Here's what I see. Zwaniger should have been charged, wasn't. Biden and Trump should have been treated equally, they weren't, and that is the double standard that I think a lot of Americans are concerned about. I see my time's expired. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hurth, thank you for being here. A little confused about this hearing. Mr. Raskin laid out the big picture, what we should be concerned about, but in the more limited picture, Director Mueller had an investigation. He's our most famous recent special prosecutor, and he found sufficient evidence to say there was a connection between Russia and the Trump campaign. And it supported a criminal prosecution if he were not president. You found there was no evidence to support a criminal prosecution. And the story here is simple. President Biden identified classified documents in his home and other places and told archives about them. The Independent Department of Justice under Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed you, a former Trump political appointee, as special counsel to fully investigate these circumstances and authorized you to prosecute criminal misconduct. You declined to prosecute because you found insufficient evidence of a crime. Case closed.
Rum is looking great.
Really,
market's
case.
looking good. Q's just hit a new intraday high.
Garland did his job, and unlike Mr. Barr, he didn't interfere. Did Mr. Garland ask you to change your report at all?
He did not, sir.
Didn't redact a thing?
No, sir.
Like Mr. Barr did, he redacted everything and made the Mueller report look like 180 degrees different than what it was. Mr. Garland did right, and you did right, and I commend each of you. The Department of Justice is independent and allows the special counsels to investigate and prosecute the facts if it's supported. Joe Biden's actions in handling of classified materials is similar to most other former presidents and vice presidents. The exception is Donald Trump. So let's start with some yes or no questions.
Wait, how could it be similar if what he did was wrong?
Specific factual
that's not disputed. What they both did was wrong.
Did you receive the resources
We're playing this game of
necessary to
like
carry out your
how
duties?
wrong.
Yes.
Do you have any reason to believe that you were treated differently with regard to independence or resources than other DOJ special prosecutors?
No.
Based on your experience as special counsel, do you have any reason to believe the Attorney General was improperly directing, pressuring, or interfering with Jack Smith or his work?
I do not have the basis to answer that question.
But your declination, which we treat as thoughtful and apolitical, we should treat prosecutorial decisions by Jack Smith the same way, to the best of your knowledge.
Again, I really do not have the sufficient information with respect to Jack Smith's investigation to provide any comment on it.
Let me ask you this. If
Meta's
President
looking good
Biden,
too.
in his
Jeez.
testimony to
Everything's
you,
ripping today.
knew the exact date, January 20, whatever it was, 2009, when he became vice president, and the day when he left being vice president, January the 20th, I guess the first would have been January 20th again, 2009, and then January 20 in 2017. If he knew those dates exactly right, and if he knew the exact date and the instant that Beau Biden died, would that have changed your decision to bring a prosecution?
Sir, I cannot engage in hypotheticals about what my decision would have been with different facts. What I did was to make a decision based on the facts and the circumstances that I was presented with, and we did identify during our investigation.
But it appears to me, and I think it would appear to the American public, that these minor discrepancies, as far as dates and after a long period of time, was not the basis. It was not the basis for your decision to decline to prosecute. It was the fact that you didn't have the facts, that he acted differently than Trump, that he voluntarily provided the documents, that he complied with the Justice Department, that he didn't try to obstruct justice. Those were the reasons you didn't prosecute him, not because he missed a few dates.
Congressman, my reasons for my declination decision are set out in my report, and I stand by the words in the report, sir.
Well, thank you, and I think I'm encompassing them in my
No, because in the report he's saying it's because he's old and the jury won't look through that. They'll consider the fact that he's old and senile.
The fact is, Mr. Biden sat through 5 hours, and he did an admirable job. And he did an outstanding job in the State of the Union, laying out the case for the future of America, for the middle class, for democracy around the world, for standing up to the Russians, not bending down to them. That's what's important. Not if you can be like on the $64,000 question, assuming it was legit, and answering every single question correctly. That's not what you need to be president. To be president, you need to have values. You need to have an understanding of what values America has and needs to maintain to keep the world safe and peaceful. That's dealing with Ukraine. That's dealing with difficult people like Netanyahu in Israel to try to get something done that's correct. That's what Joe Biden does. And understanding Social Security and Medicare, Medicaid are important institutions that help seniors, not senile people. I mean, I really object to that comment. People see he's not. Nobody suggests he's senile, and that's disrespectful of senior people with any kind of memory disability. Lots of seniors have memory disability, but they're not senile, and to do such was shameful. Joe Biden is a competent,
calm
good
down there,
president
Grandpa.
who knows American values.
Gentleman's time has expired. Gentleman gets back.
Couldn't remember what he was going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd
like to
did his
start off
memory
by thanking you for a year
get
of
lost a
hard
little bit
work
there?
and a comprehensive
Is that what happened
report.
at the end?
I'm going to
was
try
he
not to
well
provide
fired up there,
testimony, as
Grandpa?
Some people on both sides are or provide conclusions, but I do have some questions.
Dude, you
that
could
lead
not
me
write
to,
this comedy.
To ask you for conclusions. One question is, were there notes of the President of the United States that dated back to when he was a senator that contained classified information?
Among the documents that were recovered during our investigation were marked classified documents that dated back to when Mr. Biden was a senator.
When he was in his 30s, 40s, 50s?
I believe that's correct.
And were there documents from the time that he was vice president?
Yes.
Okay. So there's been a lot to do about, senility, non-senility, poor memory, and so on. But let's just go through something that you deal with as a prosecutor every day. You first start off with a set of initial evidence that indicates there may have been a crime. Is that right? By the time it gets to you, usually you have some evidence that there may have been a crime.
What a beautiful breakout.
I think that is fair, yes.
Okay, and in this case, at some point during
Microsoft's
this
looking good too.
investigation,
A Microsoft,
where the
a close
elements of the
above
crime,
415,
including
16, 17.
willfulness,
That might be a solid buy signal.
were put before
Amazon's
you,
looking good
and
too.
you reached a personal conclusion that either there was likely guilt or not. Is that correct? Not provable, not in front of a jury, just personal, because you have to make that decision as part of the case, correct?
Correct, and I would say I approach the task as I have been trained to as a prosecutor, which is as on an iterative basis. The investigation is always uncovering new evidence that you incorporate.
Right, so both before, during, and at the end, did you reach a conclusion, notwithstanding his current mental state of being an elderly man with a poor memory and so on, that he did in fact deliberately take documents and held them from back when he was a senator, and we're talking about your personal, not that you could prove it, but personally, did you see a pattern that goes all the way back to him being a senator of taking documents, making notes, and taking them and holding them personally?
Congressman, I viewed my task as a prosecutor in this matter to determine what I believed the evidence.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to take away from your conclusion. Some others are debating the conclusion. I'm not debating the conclusion. I just want to go through one element that I think is important. Look, you've prosecuted people in the past and failed to get a conviction. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, you're not a 1,000 perfect batting average. Okay.
I can't say that.
Yeah. So you went into cases thinking that you would succeed and you didn't. One might say you probably declined to prosecute ones that you might have either gotten a conviction or gotten a plea on. Would you say that's fair to say over your long career?
I think that's fair because I take the rules as set forth in the Justice Manual seriously.
However, I'm going to presume that you would never prosecute someone you thought was outright innocent.
Correct.
In this case, did you reach a conclusion that this man was outright innocent?
That conclusion is not reflected in my report, sir.
Right. So you did not reach that conclusion, or it would have been in your report.
I viewed my task of explaining my decision to the Attorney General as being based on my judgment and my assessment of the evidence. Would a conviction at trial be the probable outcome? And that's
and I just want to make sure the record is complete in that, because
So
I
he's
think
not
it's
saying he's
extremely
innocent.
important.
He's just saying he won't get
You did
convicted
not reach an idea that
he's
he
old.
had committed no wrong. You reached a conclusion that you would not prevail at trial and therefore did not take it forward. Is that correct?
correct, Congressman.
Okay. I just want to go through one or two.
So he doesn't
little
think he's
pieces of
innocent. He
housekeeping
just doesn't
almost.
think he'll get convicted.
The documents that the president, then vice president, took, which included his own notes, to your knowledge, aren't those covered by the Freedom of Information Act? Potentially.
I honestly do not know, Congressman.
Aren't they covered by the Presidential Records Act, as every note and every text of the president, the vice president, and members of the cabinet are covered?
I think different folks would have different views on whether they're covered by the PRA, Congressman.
But isn't it true that he left office leaving no copies of that behind, and that alone was inconsistent with an open and transparent individual, correct?
I'm not aware of copies of those materials being left behind, Congressman.
Okay, I want to thank you, and Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the extra few seconds. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Whoa.
Mr. Hur, you've
This
led
guy has a
a
vibe.
distinguished career, earning your law degree from Stanford University, and you served as a student as executive editor of the Stanford Law Review, correct?
Correct.
Then you went on to clerk for Judge Kaczynski of the Ninth Circuit, correct?
Yes, sir.
After that, you ascended to a clerkship with then Chief Justice William Rehnquist on the United States Supreme Court, correct?
Correct.
And then you later joined the Daddy Bush Department of Justice as a special assistant.
Did he say Daddy
known
Bush?
Federalist Society member and now FBI Director Christopher Wray. Isn't that correct?
Potential
I did spend
short-term
some time
breakout
working
on the spy
for
here.
Former Assistant Attorney General Christopher Wray.
And you
Potential
later
rejection.
joined the Trump Justice Department as the Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General, working as the right-hand man for another known Federalist Society member, Rod Rosenstein. Isn't that correct?
I served as Mr. Rosenstein's principal deputy.
And then Donald Trump appointed you to serve as U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland. Is that correct?
President Trump nominated me to serve in that position, and I was unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate.
That's correct. And thereafter, Attorney General
I like how he
Merrick
said it with
Garland
some attitude.
appointed you to serve as special counsel for the United States Department of Justice to conduct a full and thorough investigation of certain matters to determine whether or not
Sometimes I like to
Biden
get
should be
up close and
charged with
personal when I'm looking at the
unlawfully
market.
removing and
Really like
retaining
to get in
classified documents.
right
Isn't
into
that
it.
Correct?
Correct.
And nowhere in that order does Attorney General Garland authorize you to conduct
No
an
one mind if I watch
investigation and
it,
issue a
the
report
1
on
second
whether
chart
President Biden
as
is mentally
closely
fit
zoomed in as I
to
can,
serve as
right?
president. Isn't that correct?
That does not appear in the appointment.
No issue with anyone?
Pursuant to your appointment to conclude your investigation, you issued a report that was published by Attorney
Makes me
General
feel like I'm more on
Garland,
the
correct?
pulse of the system.
He made it available to Congress, sir.
And your report
Just let me know if
concluded
anyone
that
has problems.
After a full and thorough investigation, the evidence was insufficient to establish that President Biden had willfully retained classified documents. Isn't that correct?
My judgment was that based on the state of the evidence, a conviction at trial was not the probable outcome.
And you determined that there was no evidence of willful retention because each time classified documents were discovered to be in the president's possession, the White House notified the National Archives
Jesus,
right away.
what's going on?
The Biden legal team and the White House fully cooperated with the National Archives.
What the
during
fuck?
the investigation. Once the DOJ opened the investigation, President Biden and his personal counsel fully cooperated.
It's just
Isn't
dropping.
that correct?
We did identify some evidence of willful retention and disclosure, but we also
the point
noted in
is,
the
though, that the president cooperated fully with you, and didn't
Dude, this is just
President,
dumping.
I mean, they never tried to hide any documents from you, did they?
The report does note steps of cooperation taken by the president.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, unlike in the Trump classified documents case, President Biden's counsel never falsely certified that there was no classified documents in the president's possession, correct?
Whoa.
The report does include some comparisons and contrasts between the facts alleged in the Trump case and the Biden case.
Shoulder, head,
Despite
shoulder?
clearing
We
President
breaking
Biden
down?
from being prosecuted, you used your report to trash and smear President Biden because he said in response to questions over a 5-hour interview that he didn't recall how he got the documents, and you knew that that would play into the Republicans' narrative that the president is unfit for office because he's senile, and the American people saw during the State of the Union address that that was not true. But yet that's what you tried to
Cocaine's a
offer
hell
to
of a
them,
drug.
and that's why they are having you here today, so that they can expand upon that narrative. And you knew that that's what was going to happen, didn't you?
Congressman, I reject the suggestions that you have just made. That is not what happened.
Let me move on.
Partisan
then.
politics
Sir,
played
you
no
are a
part
member,
whatsoever in my work.
You are a
My
member
work
of the
was
Federalist
independent
Society, are you not?
and fair.
Are you a member of the Federalist Society?
I am not a member of the Federalist Society.
But you are a Republican, though, aren't you?
I am a registered Republican.
Yes, sir. And you're doing everything you can do to get President Trump reelected so that you can
Does
get
someone clap
appointed
for that?
as a federal judge or perhaps to another position in the Department of Justice. Isn't that correct?
Congressman, I have no such aspirations, I can assure you, and I can tell you that partisan politics had no place whatsoever in my work. It had no place in the investigative steps that I took. It had no place in the decision that I made, and it had no place in a single word of my report.
Thank you, sir.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hur, thank you for being here. You know, I think for the folks that may be...
All right, getting a little bit bored of that. You guys did send in some reacts, so let me see what you guys have. What is this?
I've said it before and I will say it again. The government is my baby daddy. The minute that they took my right away to decide if I wanted this little crotch goblin or not was the minute that they took over the role of my baby daddy. That's the minute they took on the role of paying for my formula, of providing food in my house, and for that tax refund. Because the government is our baby daddy. We love baby daddy Uncle Sam. I've said it before.
Seems like a great mother. That's actually really sad. Kaisenet gave 5,000 USD Nigeria and actually made them a millionaire in their currency.
5K? You give somebody 5K? Huh?
You don't calm down.
You give somebody $5K?
Wind down.
I don't know.
You rush for the money.
Say God, say you give person. I'm going to push out of this car. I'm going to give you a book. No, you give somebody $5K. No, I gave the guy from yesterday. I gave him like, what? I fuck up? I want to punch you in the face. Why? $5K. What happened? $5K.
You don't want $5K. He's in Nigeria.
8 million fucking naira, bro. 5K.
That currency exchange. That's wild. Kai would do something like that.
Can we talk about how it's 2024 and we can't afford to take a shit, let alone make a grocery store run? I ran to Publix for 4 items and I spent $22. And before you say, oh, 4 items, $22, like that's nothing. Let me tell you what I got. I got a bottle of mayonnaise, a bottle of ketchup, a half a pound of American cheese, and a loaf of rye bread. Now the $3.50 for the half a pound of cheese, not too bad. The $4.50 for the bread, okay, it's fresh baked. I get it. They sliced it there, they bagged it up, made it look fancy, slapped a tag on it, cool. My brain, however, cannot compute or comprehend how ketchup and mayonnaise, and I'm not talking jumbo bottles, like regular ass size bottles of ketchup and mayonnaise are
Regular
over
ass
$7.
size. The best size.
I feel like at this point I should grow tomatoes, pluck them, and then fucking stomp on them and figure out how to make my own ketchup. How is this legal from like 2 years ago that a bottle of ketchup was like $3.69? Anyway, I hope you're having a better day and you're not fucking poor like me over ketchup.
Oh, that's so kind. Very thoughtful of her at the end. TikTok day trader warns of Satoshi possibly having 20 million hidden in Bitcoin that will use a rug pull. Further Bitcoin education is needed. All right, here we go.
Like a good investment. Should I buy it here?
Looking like a good investment is cool until you realize you're buying the top. All you
I need that
Bitcoin lovers,
face mask.
I have one simple question. What if you're all wrong and the total max supply isn't 21 million?
Impossible.
What if Satoshi or whoever created
the code
this
is
thing
open source.
has a code
Anyone
wallet
can read it.
where he
This
has
guy doesn't
10,
know what he's
20,
talking about.
50 million coins, and he rug pulls you all.
Nope.
What happens then?
Nope.
I know you trust it. Oh, I'm Bitcoin. I have all these crypto. I'm so smart. But what if you all get rugged?
You don't have to trust it. You can look at the code
On Bitcoin, and then look back later and say, wow, it was really doing nothing in the first place. Why did I put my net worth into it?
Like a good investment.
spoken by a person who has no idea what they're talking about. That's something. That's something. Am I surprised? No. But for any of you, you could check it. Maybe it is a fair thesis, question, hypothesis to be like, oh, could Satoshi just have doubled up and stored it himself? You can check. The code is open source. You can read the lines of code. It's been read by thousands and thousands and thousands of people. You can know the answer. Spoke by someone wearing a shell mask. Yeah, that's probably why they had a mask on. Just embarrassment out of such a stupid fucking comment. Well, what a day we're having. I've already locked in my profits on the day, so I'm pretty freaking stoked. I'm actually thoroughly stoked. Right here. Right there. Realized on the day, 1.9K. All of that was obviously called out real time to the Discord. The Piper strategy is there. If that's something that you're interested in, you can join today for free, pinned to the top of chat. Obviously, the money you just saw, up 1.9K. The first month is free. It's $50 a month for after that, or $500. So I paid for 3.5 years in today's trade alone. This is day 2 of the recovery from my huge mess up on Friday. I guess the shirt's a lucky one. So anyway, check out the Discord. Shout out to TWC, the wellness company. Shout out to Rumble Cloud. Shout out to all of you guys. Great vibes across the board. I hope you guys are making money because today has proven to be a relatively simple trading day. Nothing like yesterday and definitely nothing like Friday. Be careful at 1 p.m. today. 1 p.m. We are going to be getting the results of the 10-year Treasury auction. That can definitely have implications on the market. So pay attention at 1 p.m. and a couple minutes afterwards. Other than that, we're going to be streaming again tomorrow. I hope to see you there bright and early. Between now and then, we're going to be posting a daily update video. When you guys watch that, it means the world to me. When you like, comment, it really helps get it promoted to other people. Obviously, if you have any suggestions of what you want in that kind of like daily degen journal market update video, let me know, comment it away, and I will do my best to incorporate what most of you want. That's what I have for you. Thank you. Appreciate all the good vibes. Much love. Peace out.